Chapter 371, Just Let Him Fly a Bit Higher. The Legends of Ren-Zhu Chapter 2, Section 3. The sunlight of the immemorial antiquity era shone on all living beings. Cicadas made noises, giving off the clamor of life. Dense green trees formed a large area of shade, as they swayed with the wind. A large vat of delicious wine was in front of verdant Great Sun, but he frowned, having no desire to drink. Divine Travel Gu, O Divine Travel Gu, you have harmed me so deeply. Right now, I do not even dare to drink wine. I am afraid of getting drunk, and end up transported to a dangerous land by you. Verdant Great Sun sighed in anguish. The previous 2 times, he was sent into the ordinary abyss by Divine Travel Gu, as well as the cauldron of the hairy men. Thankfully he was lucky, and made it out of both the incidents alive. Divine Travel Gu said, Prince of Humans, I was not intentionally harming you. In fact, every time you got drunk, you were the one who used my power. I am innocent, in fact, I even saved your life once, didn't I? Divine Travel Gu had in fact, saved verdant Great Sun's life from the tiger-striped honeybees before. Verdant Great Sun's expression was dejected. Sigh, don't mention the past, now because of you, I do not dare to drink wine. My life has become meaningless and boring. Hearing this, Divine Travel Gu felt ashamed. In that case, let me teach you a method. Go up into the sky, and in the azure heaven among the 9 heavens, there is a bamboo forest. Inside the bamboo forest, pluck a jade bamboo that is sky blue in color. Next, go to blue heaven and during the night time, collect the 8-sided diamonds inside the star fragments. Next, when it is dawn, fly into the sky and use the light of glory of the rising sun to turn me into fixed immortal Travel Gu. Once I become that Gu, I will no longer send you to random places when you are drunk. Verdant Great Sun heard this and he was overjoyed. But he thought about it, and felt that hope was slim. O Gu, I have stepped on the earth since I was born, I am not as light as clouds, nor do I have wings like birds. How can I fly into the azure heaven and pluck the jade bamboo? How can I collect the 8-sided diamonds in the star fragments? Not to mention flying towards the rising sun. Divine Travel Gu said, that is right, humans cannot fly. But it is not a problem, we can ask Wisdom Gu. It has the greatest wisdom in this world, there has to be a way. Verdant Great Sun and Wisdom Gu were old acquaintances. The reason Verdant Great Sun started drinking was because of Wisdom Gu's teachings. But Wisdom Gu taught him to drink merely because it did not want to be disturbed. Sensing that Verdant Great Sun was going to find it again, Wisdom Gu quickly went into hiding. Verdant Great Sun did not find Wisdom Gu, and felt dejected. But Divine Travel Gu said again, if we can't find Wisdom Gu, we can find Cognition Gu, it is the mother of Wisdom Gu. Verdant Great Sun quickly found Cognition Gu, and requested for the methods of flying. Cognition Gu answered, you found the right person, because cognition is the wings of freedom. But everyone's thoughts are different, what wings you have depends on yourself. Saying so, Cognition Gu turned into a warm light and shone on Verdant Great Sun. In the light, a pair of white pure feathered wings appeared behind Verdant Great Sun's back. This pair of wings was very beautiful, white and pure like snow, without a trace of impurity, it was like the wings of a white crane. Cognition Gu took a look and said, this pair of wings is called self, everyone has their own self-cognition, this pair of wings has a high degree of flexibility and freedom. But you must be careful, do not overly bask in sunlight, otherwise, your sense of self will either expand or shrink. Young man, you must remember my words. The higher you fly, the harder you fall. Cognition Gu thought and said the last sentence with deep meaning. Obtaining the cognition wings named self, Verdant Great Sun was very happy, and flew into the sky. He flew and flew, going higher and higher. Humans were not born to fly, like birds soaring in the sky. This brought Verdant Great Sun great curiosity. He played around freely in the sky, extremely happy. At the same time, he remembered Cognition Gu's warning, and did not overly expose himself to sunlight. When it was sunny, he would hide in the clouds. Like this, Verdant Great Sun flew higher and higher, finally reaching the limits of heaven, the end of azure heaven. There, jade bamboos grew in the air, having lustrous green leaves. These jade bamboos were rooted in the void, and their tips also extended into the unknown void. Looking from outside, one could only see their thin long stem. Verdant Great Sun retrieved one segment of the bamboo casually. This dark green bamboo stem was like jade, palm-sized, and hollow in the middle, giving off a cold feeling. Verdant Great Sun obtained the jade bamboo and was very happy. He continued flying upwards. The sky of the immemorial antiquity era had 9 levels. White heaven, red heaven, orange heaven, yellow heaven, green heaven, azure heaven, blue heaven, purple heaven, and black heaven. Verdant Great Sun plucked the jade bamboo in azure heaven. A few days later, he flew to the higher blue heaven. It was night time, and stars were shining to the sky. The stars flew around happily, raining down stardust. These stardust gathered into a sea, a beautiful river of light made of silver stars, flowing across the entire blue heaven. Verdant Great Sun willed his wings, and plunged into the star river to swim. He searched painstakingly in the endless stardust. He did not want those 7-sided or 16-sided fragments, he only wanted the 8-sided ones. These star fragments were like diamonds, crystal clear and flawless. He searched for a long time before finding one. On the second day, Verdant Great Sun flew towards the rising sun at the break of dawn. The sunrise was like a large red lantern, emitting a warm light. This sunlight was not ordinary, it was the light of glory. It could shine on all living beings and penetrate the river of time. Verdant Great Sun's left hand was holding into the jade bamboo, his right hand was holding the 8-sided diamond, as he flew towards the sun and summoned Divine Travel Gu. Basking under the light of glory, Divine Travel Gu swallowed the star fragment, and entered the jade bamboo. O Verdant Great Sun, I need time to metamorphosize and become fixed immortal Travel Gu. During this period, you have to fly towards the sun, and do not leave the light of glory. But you have to be more careful, Cognition Gu had said, pay attention to the self-wings on your back. Once my transformation ends, you should fly towards the cloud cover immediately. Do remember, remember. Divine Travel Gu reminded. Verdant Great Sun laughed heartily, O Gu, rest assured. I have even survived the ordinary abyss, and lived after the hairy men. I have the reputation Gu, and have transcended vanity. The light of glory can do nothing to me. Then I can stop worrying. Divine Travel Gu's voice weakened as the sunlight turned into threads, forming a cocoon wrapping the Divine Travel Gu and the jade bamboo. Verdant Great Sun moved his pure white wings, flying towards the sun. During this process, the light cocoon became thicker and heavier. A moment later, the cocoon was burst open, and a butterfly glowing in green light flew out. I succeeded. From today onwards, I am not Divine Travel Gu, but fixed immortal Travel Gu. Ha ha ha. Fixed immortal Travel Gu flew around Verdant Great Sun, happily dancing, but suddenly shouted, Ah, oh no. Verdant Great Sun, look at your wings. Under the light of the sun, Verdant Great Sun's wings had expanded to 3 times of its original size. Do not fluster, I noticed it long ago, but so what? The larger my wings, the stronger they are, and the higher and faster I can fly. Verdant Great Sun laughed loudly. Quickly hide in the clouds, stop flying. Fixed immortal Travel Gu said worriedly. Don't worry, don't worry. Verdant Great Sun was not worried at all. The self-wings on his back grew larger and larger, becoming even larger than his body. Verdant Great Sun's speed also became faster and faster. Fixed Immortal Travel Gu, what do you think is above the 9 heavens? He shot up towards greater altitudes. Stop flying, stop flying. If you fall down, I cannot save you. Fixed Immortal Travel Gu was very worried. What's the problem? How could I fall down? Look at my wings, how strong are they, how powerful are they? Verdant Great Sun was just rebuking, when suddenly, his wings expanded to their limits and exploded. Losing his wings, Verdant Great Sun fell towards the ground immediately. Eventually, he landed on the ground, as an unrecognizable grotesque corpse. Renzu, eldest son, met his end. Southern border, Huatan Mountain. On the reddish-brown mountain rocks, there were some wine. Using the heat of Huatan Mountain, the wine was kept at a certain temperature. Sunlight shone down as Fang Yuan raised his wine cup, drinking it in one shot, sighing comfortably, such soothing wine, it is meant to be drank at this temperature. Beside him, Bai Ningbing was also sitting, but did not touch the wine, instead, staring at the direction of Xianxia Mountain. There, the 3 light pillars shone up into the sky, shooting through the heavens. You are still drinking. It has been months, 3 Kings' inheritance has opened twice already. Tai Mu Bai is controlling Xianxia Mountain now and chased away all the demonic Gu masters. These few months, we have been lurking on Huatan Mountain, are we going to continue watching? Bai Ningbing said unhappily. She was not afraid of death, only seeking thrills in life. Maybe she was spurred on by the 4 old-timers of Tai clan, or maybe because Fang Yuan's strength had surpassed her, these few months, she had been cultivating non-stop, not caring about her rising aptitude. The way I see it, we can still enter the 3 Kings' inheritance, as long as he find the opportunity and wait for Tai Mu Bai to enter the inheritance, we can strike. With our strength, no one on Xianxia Mountain can stop us. Bai Ningbing's words were very aggressive. But Fang Yuan was relaxing and had a chill expression, no worries, no rush. Tai Mu Bai is the glory of Tai clan, he is the previous clan leader, having rank 5 peak stage cultivation. He is such a high and mighty character. Compared to him, we are just rats under his feet. Let him fly higher, higher and higher. Saying so, he raised his wine cup, pointing at Xianxia Mountain, smiling lightly as he muttered, "Come, Lord Senior Tai Mu Bai, this junior offers you a toast." Bai Ningbing glanced at Fang Yuan, but only saw that pair of black eyes, dark like the abyss, unfathomable. Chapter 372, Land Spirit, Afterlife of the Gu Immortal. Central Continent, Hu Immortal Blessed Land. A tall and large crystal mountain and river, was at the center of the blessed land. Its name is Dang Hun Mountain, pink throughout, emitting the colors of dreams and illusions. At this moment, the elite disciples from the 10 sects were like ants, trying hard to ascend the mountain. Somewhere near the mountain waist, Fang Zheng was full of sweat, his face pale as his fingers gripped the mountain walls, gasping heavily. As long as any living beings got close to Dang Hun Mountain, their souls will have to endure the pain of vibrating shocks. The higher Fang Zheng climbed, the more he felt dizzy, like his soul was being blown away by the wind, he felt like he was about to collapse. TSK, you can't hold on anymore. Then give up. Look how much you've fallen behind the others, how can you possibly win? Why don't you just give up, you have no hope left. Hu Immortal Land Spirit pouted her tiny pink lips as she appeared before Fang Zheng. Hu Immortal Land Spirit was like a little girl, snowy white skin glowing with pinkness. Her shiny large black eyes emitted an innocent gaze. What is most attractive is behind her back, where a snow-white and pure fox tail grew, it was furry and fluffy, extremely cute and makes one want to play with it. At this time, Hu Immortal Land Spirit was sitting in the air, watching Fang Zheng as she made fun of him. Fang Zheng was not shocked. After climbing to this height from the mountain foot, the land spirit had appeared many times, watching their progress every time, and was very playful. Fang Zheng had found the method to deal with her, that is, to ignore her. As expected, seeing that Fang Zheng was silent, Hu Immortal Land Spirit's mouth pouted even more. "You're a stupid lad, so boring. Please don't become my master, otherwise my life would be boring to death. Hee, the others are more fun." Saying so, she vanished, going to find the other elite disciples. After Hu Immortal Land Spirit left, in Fang Zheng aperture, the spirit incubating flea vibrated, as Lord Sky Crane's voice sounded out. "Fang Zheng, work hard and hang in there. Now is not the time for me to appear, you have to at least get past the mountain waste, only then can we have a chance of victory. Endure, you have to endure, the strength of the soul can be excavated, you have a lot of potential left to uncover." Hearing his master's encouragement, Fang Zheng's dazed expression became firm again. He replied in his heart, "Master, don't worry. I will endure, I am just taking a break, and regulating my breath." Pausing momentarily, he asked again, "Master, I have a question, what is a land spirit? Earlier that Hu Immortal Land Spirit was near me, if I catch her, would I be able to skip the climbing?" Lord Sky Crane was shocked, scolding, "You lad, you have no fear due to cluelessness, even trying to scheme against the land spirit. Do you know how the land spirit is formed? After the Gu Immortal dies, the remaining fragments of their will and soul mixed with the blessed land's powers, thus forming that spiritual body." What, the land spirit was a Gu Immortal? Fang Zheng was shocked. "That's right, the Hu Immortal Land Spirit you saw was formed from the former Gu Immortal by Hu. But without her past life's memories, merely her lingering desires remain. Don't think of her as powerless, inside this blessed land, she can manipulate the heavenly power freely, and can directly combat a Gu Immortal. She can seal any rank 1 to 5 Gu worm at will. Only rank 6 immortal Gu worms can move freely in the blessed land. Fang Zheng, you are too bold. Climb this mountain properly, do not have any unrealistic thoughts." Lord Sky Crane chided. "Yes, master, I will not dare to any more." Fang Zheng nodded, admitting his fault in his heart. After scolding Fang Zheng, Lord Sky Crane's tone eased, encouraging, "So now you know. As long as you become the owner of the blessed land, you can get the land spirit's loyalty. Within the blessed land, the land spirit is an existence equal to a Gu Immortal." Fang Zheng listened as he was completely stunned. What sort of strong aid was that? The assistance of a Gu Immortal equivalent. Lord Sky Crane continued, "However, the land spirit cannot leave the blessed land. The true essence of the Hu Immortal inheritance is this wide and rich blessed land. Fang Zheng, you are still too low level, and the things you do not know are simply too many. Wait till you inherit this blessed land, you will slowly understand what sort of help a blessed land can bring to a Gu master. You are simply too lucky, encountering a blessed land with a spirit, and also receiving the sect's help. If it is a blessed land without a spirit, that would be greatly inferior." Fang Zheng asked curiously, "Master, what happens to a blessed land without a spirit?" Lord Sky Crane answered, "A blessed land without a spirit is destined to be destroyed. Like a slumbering divine dragon, anyone can eat its flesh and drink its blood. Until it dies, it will not awaken. Fang Zheng, after you become the lord of the blessed land, you have to give the resources within the blessed land to the sect. Immortal Crane's sect had nurtured you this far, you have to give back to the sect. When the sect is stronger, the protection towards you will increase as well. You understand this logic, right?" I understand. It was Immortal Crane's sect who adopted me. Without the sect's help, I would not have any chance in getting the inheritance. I would not even be able to exact revenge on my brother. If there is a possibility, I not only want to repay the sect, but I also want to revive you, master. Feng Jing nodded, his vision was clear as he held great gratitude and admiration towards Immortal Crane sect. Lord Sky Crane heard this and laughed dryly. Foolish disciple, how can people revive so easily? I am glad you had the thought. The light of glory of the righteous path shone on Xianxia mountain. Under Tai Mu Bai's influence, Three Kings' inheritance became the righteous path's garden of exploration. Any demonic Gu master was chased out and not allowed to step into the mountain. Tai Mu Bai is too overbearing, fencing up the area and refusing to let anyone in. He is a senior expert, yet his greed knows no bound. Eating the meat and bones, but refusing to let us drink even the soup. Most importantly, Three Kings' inheritance's opening time is shortening, and the three pillars are getting weaker. Just as Little Beast King said a month ago, this Gu immortal blessed land is decaying, and will face destruction soon. The demonic Gu masters were feeling flustered and anxious, such a rare opportunity in front of them, yet they are denied entry, only able to watch in vain. Stuff the courageous to death and starve the timid to death, brothers, let's charge up together. No matter how powerful that Tai Mu Bai is, can he kill all of us? Someone shouted, encouraging the crowd. We can wait for Tai Mu Bai to enter the inheritance, and then go up the mountain. That way, there will be less obstruction. Someone suggested. There's a problem with this solution. When we come out of the inheritance, so would Tai Mu Bai. Moreover, nobody knows where we would appear in San Chan Mountain, we might get slaughtered by the righteous path. Someone rebuked. So what? Danger lurks when seeking wealth, how can we get the cub without entering the tiger's den? Wanting to gain something without taking a risk, how can there be such a good thing in this world? Just as the demonic path members were shouting and discussing, they heard the wailings of 100 ghosts near them, and the bright blue sky suddenly became filled with dark clouds. Within the dark clouds, a shrill voice said, Gagaga, Tai Mu Bai, you came out of your cultivation, why did you not say hi to your old friend, The dark clouds moved rapidly, forming a face, having an aquiline nose and deep eye sockets, staring at San Cha Mountain. This laughter and entrance, it is Lord Wu Gui from our demonic path. I remember now. Lord Wu Gui is also rank 5 peak stage, an expert from the older generation, he is Tai Mu Bai's lifetime rival. There's nothing amazing about the righteous path, we have experts in the demonic path too. Go, Senior Wu Gui. At once, the demonic path members cheered, their eyes glowing as some shouted while others screamed. The dark clouds moved closer, shrouding San Cha Mountain quickly. Such a grand entrance, like an entire army, at once, even sunlight was covered, causing San Cha Mountain to fall into darkness. The righteous Gu masters were all fearful. He has such an overwhelming aura. This old demon Wu Gui, he is still alive. Old demon Wu Gui, he is over hundreds of years old. Back when he was breaking through to rank 6, he was disturbed and ruined by the young and inexperienced Lord Tai Mu Bai unintentionally. Thus, he felt extreme hatred and had slaughtered Tai clansmen many times as revenge. Wu Gui, have you been hiding under a mountain all these years? Are you here to experience defeat once again? At the mountain peak, golden light burst out. In the golden light, Tai Mu Bai stood upright, his hands behind his back, speaking calmly towards the rolling dark clouds. Humph, you won by merely one move a decade ago, you really think you are better? Little bastard, today you will die without a proper corpse. The dark clouds moved like steam out of boiling water, turning into a large hand and grabbing towards Tai Mu Bai. This hand was extremely large, larger than a small-sized mountain. It gave off an impressive aura, stunning people, and gave off the feeling of grabbing the moon and stars. The dark clouds looked slow but were extremely fast, grabbing quickly. Corrosive smoke rose, as the hand covered an entire mountain peak, causing the trees and rocks it touched to disintegrate. Old tricks. Tai Mu Bai snorted, moving his leg and turning into a golden light, tearing apart the dark clouds, flying towards the sky. The golden light flew like a shooting star, like lightning, as it crashed into the dark clouds. Almost the next moment, there was a thunder-like explosion, going off like firecrackers. The dark clouds moved violently, as golden light flickered. The two rank 5 peak stage Gu masters fought inside the clouds. Although the details could not be seen, outsiders could feel how powerful they were just from the aftershock sent out by them. Wu Gui, when I just started my Gu journey, you were already an established expert. Back then, I had to avoid you if I met you. But 50 years later, I could escape from you. 80 years later, you could do nothing to me. 100 years later, you lost to me. And now, after another decade, today, you will lose your life. Tai Mu Bai's voice came from within the dark clouds. Huff, huff, huff. Tai Mu Bai. You are too arrogant. You were lucky to be born in Tai clan, relying on Tai clan, you can speak so arrogantly. If I had the same resources as you, I would have become a Gu immortal by now. Wu Gui screamed in an unstable tone. Evidently, during the intense battle earlier, Tai Mu Bai had the advantage. But, did you think I have no backup? Ha ha ha. Wu Gui breathed roughly, but started laughing wildly. As he laughed, a third rank 5 peak stage aura burst out. Tai Mu Bai, did you miss me all these years? A gloomy and shrill voice traveled far and wide. Tai Mu Bai could not hide his shock. Ku Mo, to think you came. Chapter 373, Intense Battle of Rank 5s. The situation at San Cha Mountain had a violent change. After Tai Mu Bai suppressed San Cha Mountain for the most part of the year, his old enemy from the demonic path appeared. But Wu Gui, who was also rank 5 peak stage, could not beat Tai Mu Bai, who made his debut later. The situation that followed was beyond everyone's expectations. The similarly rank 5 peak stage Ku Mo suddenly made his appearance. The battle situation immediately changed to two demonic paths rank 5 pincering Tai Mu Bai. Righteous path figures cursed at the demonic path's shamelessness, while the demonic path figures continued to rush into San Cha Mountain and cheer loudly. Uncountable gazes fanatically looked at the air. A battle between rank 5 peak stage Gu masters was rarely seen, much less the battle between 3 rank 5 peak stage Gu masters. Tai Mu Bai could suppress Wu Gui, but fighting 1 against 2 was far beyond his ability. But Wu Gui and Ku Mo were both demonic Gu masters, and although they had allied, they were similarly guarded against each other. Like this, the three entered a stalemate. From the sky covered by the black clouds and fierce wind, an enormous and deafening explosion occurred. Golden light burst out, a 4-clawed golden dragon tore the black clouds and moved the wind and rain, its dragon roar spreading over a long distance. Humph, merely a rank 4 golden dragon Gu, did you take that out to make a fool of yourself? Ku Mo let out a disdainful snarl, look at how I tear you to pieces. When his words landed, there was a loud sound, the golden dragon let out a miserable whine and fell down towards the ground. Just as the golden dragon was about to lose its life, a golden whirlwind blew towards it. The 4-clawed golden dragon was surrounded by the whirlwind and its heavy injuries were instantly healed. It raised its head and roared before rising up again. This is a rank 4 Golden Breeze Gu. Its healing ability is extremely powerful and is comparable to rank 5 Gu. The spectating Li Xian narrowed his eyes when he recognized this golden whirlwind. Don't even think about it. Wu Gui suddenly gave an unearthly cry. This unearthly cry was extremely ear-piercing, like the cawing of ravens. The spectators, be it righteous path or demonic path, felt dizzy and nauseous. Following the unearthly cry, a shining jet-black halo shot out and firmly collided against the four-clawed golden dragon. The four-clawed golden dragon could not resist it and exploded. Dazzling light burst forth like a small sun, causing all the spectators to close their eyes. The sound of the explosion was so loud, it seemed to burst everyone's eardrums. A fierce wind pressure soon followed, blowing towards all directions. The wind blew countless trees and stones, burying many Gu masters alive. The berserk wind rose as if in defiance of heaven and even dispersed the dark clouds covering the sky. The spectators regained their senses after a long while and retreated in fear while looking up. In the sky, three figures were confronting each other. Tai Mu Bai was wearing a golden chainmail. It was the rank 4 Golden Coat Gu and had exemplary defense. His whole body was covered with a layer of gold-red light. It was the rank 4 Golden Aurora Gu and could allow the Gu master to fly. Wu Gui was stepping on a dark cloud, his lips were sharply sticking forward like a black beak. And Ku Mo was slowly flapping a pair of bone wings on his back. His whole body was covered with bone armor and there were all kinds of colorful sharp spikes growing out from his elbows, knees, shoulders and other places. At first look, he looked like a malevolent multicolored human-shaped hedgehog. The confrontation only lasted for a short few breaths of time. The three attacked at the same time as quickly as lightning. In the sky, a golden red light shuttled back and forth, breaking the void and was as sharp as a sword. A black light sword, moving at one time and stopping at next, it was strange and cunning. A multicolored light charged and crashed, and displayed the most valiant manner. Ordinary naked eyes were already unable to make out the progress of the battle. The absolute majority of people could only hear the unceasing explosions that continued to ravage their eardrums. Suddenly a golden light fiercely streaked across the sky like a blade, towards an area in the middle of the mountain. Mountain stones and boulders were crushed into fine powder and there appeared a 20 feet wide and over 100 feet tall gorge. The nearby unlucky spectators were all chopped into minced meat. Suddenly a raven's caw echoed like the thunder. Hundreds of unlucky Gu masters' head burst immediately. From time to time, bone spikes rained down freely from the sky. Many Gu masters could not evade in time and were pierced through, nailed at the ground and lost their lives. The battle had reached the climax, the three sides moved without restraint. We can't endure even the ripples of a battle between rank 5 peak stage Gu masters. Too terrifying, we need to leave quickly. If we keep on watching, we might have to pay with our lives. Everyone was scared witless and hurried out of Xianxia Mountain one after another. Even Li Xian, Hu Mei'er and others also did not dare to stay here. On Xianxia Mountain, only the rank 4 peak stage Yihua, Kong Ri Tian, Long Qin Tian, Chong and Wushan Tong remained. Even so, their expressions were serious and all their concentration was fixed on the battle with their nerves stretched tight as a bowstring. They were ready to escape the moment there was even a little danger. Soon, these rank 4 peak stage Gu masters also could not continue staying there. Because the three rank 5 peak stage Gu masters used their rank 5 Gu. Tai Mu Bai's turned gold Gu flew everywhere. No matter what it shot through, whether they were rocks, grasses, trees, flowers, birds, fishes or beasts, they would turn into golden sculpture, their life force extinguished. Kumo's soft bones Gu made any bones within 50 miles of it turn soft and become a puddle of bone paste. And Wugui's pitch black Gu spread darkness everywhere. Any Gu worms under rank 6 that touched it would receive different degrees of restrictions. In this world, the higher the rank of the Gu, the stronger and rarer they were. Precious Gu of rank 4 were already hard to purchase, and rank 5 Gu were practically not circulated in the market. As for rank 6 immortal Gu, every one of them were one of its kind. Fang Yuan had reached rank 6 Gu Immortal's realm in his previous life, but he could only refine a rank 6 Spring-Autumn Cicada. As for most of the Gu masters, rank 5 Gu were already very hard to get. The most important thing in a battle between rank 5 Gu masters was the power of their rank 5 Gu. This is the power of a rank 5 Gu. Terrifying, rank 4 defensive Gu can hardly resist it, let alone rank 3 Gu. From some faraway corner, Bai Ningbing observed the battle in Xianxia Mountain intently, her blue pupils flickering with grave light. This was not the first time she saw a battle between rank 5 Gu masters. She had seen it once before at Qingmao Mountain. But the fighting strength of these three rank 5 Gu masters were clearly much more powerful than Lord Sky Crane and first generation Gu Yu. This was because first gen Gu Yu and Lord Sky Crane were decrepit rank 5 Gu masters who were struggling at death's door and used all kinds of ways to prolong their lifespan. First gen Gu Yu hibernated all year round in blood coffin and changed himself into a zombie, neither human nor ghost. And Lord Sky Crane was not much better. He came from Central Continent, his battle prowess was suppressed to some extent in southern border. But these three rank 5 Gu masters Bai Ningbing was looking at were all at their peak state. Their intense battle naturally gave her spirit an even stronger impact. If I face such rank 5 Gu masters, I will not be able to resist one move of theirs, and there is no hope of even escaping. Bai Ningbing looked at the battle for a long time and subconsciously clenched her fists, deeply realizing the gap between her and these rank 5 peak stage powers like Tai Mu Bai and the rest. Rank 5 peak stage Gu masters were at the peak of the mortal world, an emperor among Gu masters. Especially when they used rank 5 Gu, the strength they could bring out could destroy mountains if they came across mountains, split apart rivers if they came across rivers. Such an enormous power gave a feeling that it could not be stopped. This is the show you were waiting for. Bai Ningbing retrieved her gaze and looked at Fang Yuan standing beside her with a flash of understanding. Tai Mu Bai is fighting 1 against 2. It seems after this battle the structure of Xianxia Mountain will have a complete change. Demonic path will suppress righteous path. You were waiting for this opportunity since several months ago, right? Fang Yuan calmly gazed into the distance and shook his head indifferently. Rank 5 Gu are very rare, many rank 5 Gu masters don't have even one rank 5 Gu and can only use 4 Gu. Thus, a rank 5 Gu master's battle strength is determined by the rank 5 Gu they hold and their amount. Demonic Gu masters have always lacked resources and can mostly only rely on luck or fate. Kumo and Wugui have 1 or 2 rank 5 Gu with them. But Tai Mu Bai is different, he has a huge background called Tai Clan, he should at least have 3 rank 5 Gu on him. Bai Ningbing's expression moved. You mean Tai Mu Bai will be the winner of this battle? Fang Yuan, however, shook his head. Gu worms are Gu masters' trump card, the Gu masters can be targeted against once their Gu are exposed. Tai Mu Bai will not easily reveal all his trump cards. From the start, this battle had neither a winner nor a loser. Bai Ningbing was a smart person and immediately understood it after Fang Yuan gave her the clues. No matter how intense this battle was, it was only a probe. Why did Tai Mu Bai, Wu Gui and Kumo came here? Was it purely for revenge against each other? Impossible. For people like them, their greatest goal is to break away from mortal and charge through to rank 6 Gu immortal realm, thereby gaining a longer life. These three were at the peak, looking down on all mortals, and had rich experiences. Gratitude and grudges could not move them. Each of their action held their own deep purpose. These three chose Xianxia Mountain for their battle instead of any other places. So, their purpose is already clear: three kings' inheritance. Bai Ningbing's eyes flickered with a pondering light. Three kings were rank 5 Gu masters. Their inheritance contains rank 5 Gu worms. Each one of these rank 5 Gu can greatly increase their strength. With a treasure in front of them, how could they battle without care? Unless there is an extremely huge imbalance between the battle strength of the two sides. But from the current situation, it clearly is not so. So this battle can only end in a draw. The confusing battle situation suddenly became extremely clear. Bai Ningbing subconsciously looked at Feng Yuan. When everyone's hearts were throbbing intensely because of the intense battle of rank 5 Gu masters, he was still so calm, like he was a spectator watching something of no concern. But was it really a matter of no concern? Bai Ningbing rejected this thought inwardly. No one knew clearer than her regarding the thirst Feng Yuan had towards three kings' inheritance. But even under such desire, he could still restrain his impulse. Facing such an opponent, Bai Ningbing's heart felt incomparably heavy. Such unfathomable shrewdness. How will I be able to take the Yanggu that can turn me back to a male from him? Chapter 374, Calamity and Tribulation of the Blessed Land. Half a month later. On a certain peak in Xianxia Mountain. A group of ash-gray mountain apes close to 1,000 in numbers tightly surrounded Tai Ruanan while screeching and screaming. Tai Ruanan took in a deep breath. She suddenly waved her hand and shot a large cloud of golden needle goo. Golden needle goo was not a natural goo but was a goo created by Tai clan's goo masters. Every golden needle goo was a rank 2 goo. Their length was around an index finger and were like thin golden needles. Golden needle goo shot through the apes. Some stood on the spot without being able to move, some died from poison, and some were driven into a frenzy and actually began attacking their nearby companions. Tai Ruanan repeatedly shot out golden needles. There was chaos among the mountain apes and they suffered huge losses. In a sorry figure and while screeching miserably, they made their escape. Soon, the noisy battlefield quietened down. Large numbers of mountain apes were on the ground, some were dead and some were at their last breaths. Tai Ruanan slowly walked past them and shot out golden needle goo again. But this time, these golden needle goo had healing effects. They shot into the mountain apes and turned into balls of golden light, moving back and forth between their injuries. Many mountain apes recovered their movement ability. Golden needle goo by itself was not wondrous. But when matched with poison liquid goo, it could turn into poison needle. When matched with stiff goo, it could make the enemies unable to move a single step. When matched with chaotic mind goo, it could cause chaos among the enemies, making them unable to differentiate between their allies and enemies. And when matched with vitality goo, it had healing properties. Tai Ruanan had spent around 7 to 8 days to be proficient in the combination of these 4 types of battle tactics. Thus, she was able to defeat close to 1,000 mountain apes by herself. Ruanan, this child has an outstanding talent with high comprehension, and more importantly, her nature is tenacious and resolute. She is indeed someone who will become a pillar of Tai clan. Tai Mubai watched this nearby with no expression on his face, but his heart was full of praises. This old Tai clan leader had seen the rise of countless talents in his life and also witnessed the fall of innumerable geniuses. He was very clear, in a dangerous and difficult environment, many outstanding geniuses would emerge. But talent was only one aspect. What mattered was the nature of the geniuses. If a genius could put up with hardships and endure loneliness, they would definitely have great accomplishments in the future. A genius that had poor disposition could only be a shooting star, shining for only an instant. why would Tai Mu Bai teach Tai Ruanan? On one hand, Tai Ruanan was blood-related to Tai Xuelang, who had certain relationship with him. On the other hand, Tai Ruanan had been polished like limestone after a series of trials. All traces of impatience had gone, leaving behind stability and perseverance. Tai Ruanan was like an unpolished jade that let out dazzling light after being polished slightly. Old clan leader. Tai Ruanan climbed up the peak towards Tai Mu Bai and cupped her hands in greeting. The girl was full of admiration and respect towards this old man. Half a month ago, this old man Tai Mu Bai fought against 2 rank 5 experts of the demonic path by himself. He first used rank 5 turn gold Gu to contend with the 2 demons easily. Then, he used rank 5 liquid metal Gu to make these 2 experts back out and weakened their fighting spirits. The battle finally ended with both sides relenting. Tai Mu Bai's strength was like a basin of cold water that poured on the hearts of the demonic Gu masters, causing their rising flames of angers to weaken in an instant. The conclusion of the battle was that both righteous and demonic paths could contend for 3 kings' inheritance. But everyone could clearly see how good Tai Mu Bai was and that he had not used his full strength. Good. Being able to grasp this flexible battle tactic in such a short time is remarkable. Tai Mu Bai praised indifferently as he casually waved his hand. Whoosh! A large cloud of golden needle Gu shot out. However, different from Tai Ruanan's golden needle Gu, the golden needle Gu Tai Mu Bai commanded were extremely small, like raindrops. When they moved in the sky, they were like a cloud of golden fog. The golden fog moved with the wind and brushed past an area of boulders. Pitter-patter sounds as if thousands of silkworms were eating mulberries came from the giant boulders. Tai Ruanan's pupils shrunk, immediately realizing the amazing aspect of this move. The golden fog infiltrated and penetrated the boulders, creating countless tiny holes in them. The trees nearby the boulders were also pierced through, all signs of life within them extinguished instantly. If someone were struck by these Gu, their whole body and insides would be perforated and destroyed. It was a really terrifying killer move. Tai Mu Bai casually waved his hand and threw out 3 golden needle Gu. These 3 golden needles were, however, different. They were thick and long. Normal golden needle Gu had a finger-sized length, but these 3 golden needles had palm-sized length. The 3 golden needle Gu flew and pierced into a mountain ape's head. One shot like a perpendicular lightning, straight into the mountain ape from the top of its head, while the other 2 entered through the left and right temples, the needles almost completely entering the mountain ape's head with only a small portion remaining on the outside. This mountain ape had been healed by Tai Ruanan and was just making its escape when it was struck by the golden needles. The mountain ape let out a painful scream and leaped a couple of times, kneeling in front of Tai Mu Bai. The ape's eyes were wide open with incomparable panic, dread and anger. The strange thing was it could not control its body and kneeled down reverentially and without making any movements. It was not even able to let out a shout. Tai Ruanan had never expected to see such a peculiar scene and was stupefied for a while. Tai Mu Bai laughed and looked at the mountain ape at his feet. He indifferently said, "Golden needle Gu combined with create fog Gu can form golden fog. This golden fog looks faint and weak, but is actually extremely powerful and is specialized in breaking through Gu Master's defense. When I was 28 and was roaming southern border, I used this move to dominate the region of Luchuan River." Tai Mu Bai paused for a while and continued, "Golden needle Gu combined with puppet control Gu, can take control of living bodies. When I was 42 and my cultivation advanced to rank 4 peak stage, I ended my closed cultivation and began to roam the world to test my skills. When I arrived at Taimu Mountain, I was attacked by a group of over 50 demonic path mountain bandits. I used this move to make 38 of them defect and finally captured all of them and got rid of these evil beings." Tai Ruanan became more fascinated the more she heard. Since her early years, she followed her father and traveled everywhere. And she had heard of this old clan leader's heroic deeds. The old clan leader had a great aptitude and revealed his talent the moment he started cultivating, becoming the #1 youth star of Tai clan at that time. He also lived up to others' expectations, advancing to rank for peak stage before 50. He ended his secluded cultivation and roamed southern border, crossing mountains and rivers to test his skills, and made a name for himself. After returning to Tai clan, he became the clan leader and brought Tai clan to new heights. For a while, Tai clan was in such limelight that it made Wu clan, Shang clan and the rest lose their splendor. His whole life was filled with glory and brilliance. He had countless battle achievements under him, whether it was his lone achievements while roaming the southern border or leading a group of heroes to eliminate evil, he had few losses. The way he did his work was unyielding and domineering, daring to stand directly up to the enemies. Many of his enemies would be terror-stricken at the mention of him when he was reigning. Even righteous path figures would feel mental pressure when they heard Tai Mu Bai's name. Right now, as Tai Ruanan listened to the old clan leader recall those olden days indifferently, she became overwhelmed with emotions. She could not help imagining a scene. A hero at his prime, handsome and graceful, donning a blue robe, moved unhindered around the world. He defeated powerful enemies by himself, no one could block him and countless people watched him. However, time was ruthless, turning that young man into an elderly. But Tai Mu Bai was still Tai Mu Bai. Even if he was more old, it could not hide his glorious deeds. These battle accomplishments were a dazzling halo that covered his body, and even the layers of dust of history could not block its radiance. Lord Old Clan Leader, I will not let you down, Golden Needle Gu will not shame your name in my hands. Tai Ruanan spoke resolutely. The old man gratefully nodded and patted Tai Ruanan's shoulder. Child, you have a strong mind and our Tai clan's blood flows in your veins. You have to shoulder the responsibility of our Tai clan's children. I will teach you all that I know, and I hope that one day, you can be capable enough to raise the flag of Tai clan. I am leaving that little beast King Fangzheng to you as your test. Do you have confidence? I have confidence and also have a plan. Old clan leader, you can rest assured, Fangzheng has already completely fallen into the demonic path, I will definitely retrieve his head. Tai Ruanan's eyes shone with resolute light. Good, do not be arrogant in victory or discouraged in defeat, you are able to get out of your shock and derive strength from your tribulation, this is something that is impossible for many youngsters. As long as you maintain this, you will definitely become the glory of Tai clan. Now, I shall teach you the principle behind these two tactics along with my insights and experience in them, as well as all the other different combinations that can be derived. Like this, one taught diligently and another did her best to learn. After over an hour, Tai Mu Bai finished teaching everything. Good, you can ask me anything you are unclear about. Tai Ruanan had outstanding comprehension ability and had already engraved all the teachings into her mind. However, she thought for a while and asked, these days, I have found that the opening time of Three Kings' inheritance has been getting shorter and the amount of Gu masters that can enter has also been getting lesser. The three light pillars are no longer as thick and bright as before. Right now, there has been many rumors saying the Blessed Land is already nearing its end. Is this true? Tai Mu Bai nodded, it is indeed so. You are still not ready to learn some things. All living things exist in balance, with darkness, there is light, with water there is fire, with blessing, there is calamity. His gaze turned towards the peak of San Cha mountain and sighed, every blessed land will face earthly calamity every 10 years and heavenly tribulation every 100 years. This blessed land originated from a mysterious Gu immortal from ancient times and was later inherited by the three kings and remodeled into this inheritance site. This blessed land is already old, its lifespan is almost at its end. A land spirit could prolong this time, but unfortunately there is no land spirit here. A blessed land without a land spirit is an enormous boat that is sinking. Anyone can enter inside and plunder the treasures within. The more they plunder, the bigger the holes in this giant boat and the quicker it would sink. This Gu immortal blessed land is already nearing its end and will only last for less than 10 years before it is destroyed due to the exhaustion of immortal essence. Chapter 375, Gathering of Experts. To think that even blessed lands face destruction. Tai Ruanan heard the secret and sighed lightly. How can there be any existence in this world that is indestructible? The cycle of heavenly fate, the competition of all living beings, in this wide universe, we mortals are like a single speck of sand at the bottom of an entire sea, small and insignificant. Only by advancing to a Gu immortal, can we surpass mortality, and have our own foundation, turning from sand into an island, having the ability to resist the sea waves. Tai Mu Bai's tone was full of lamentation. When the blessed land faces destruction, wouldn't the people inside be in great danger? Tai Ruanan asked again. That is right. Tai Mu Bai nodded. The moment the blessed land vanishes, the wind of assimilation will blow, fusing heaven and earth together, as everything inside the blessed land would turn into the most basic primeval essence in this world. This wind's power can sweep away all dust and particle, even Gu immortals fear it, because even Gu immortals can be destroyed by it. There is such a powerful wind. Tai Ruanan was shocked beyond words, showing great worry in her eyes. Tai Mu Bai waved his hand. No worry, I have already stepped into the blessed land many times, I have gained deep understanding of it, and have always been observing and learning about it. The blessed land is indeed weakening, but there is still a long time before it faces destruction. During this period, the heavenly power in the blessed land will weaken, and the restrictions towards us Gu masters would decrease. Slowly, we would be able to use 1 or 2 Gu, and then 3 or 4, 5 or 6. Eventually, the blessed land would be full of loopholes, and form an entrance where we can enter and exit at will. Tai Mu Bai looked afar, his gaze deep and filled with knowledge, like he could predict the future. At the final period, that will be the true decisive battle of 3 kings' inheritance. As the restriction from the blessed land is gone, anyone can use their full power. They can plunder and battle to their heart's extent. By then, Xianxia Mountain would not only have 3 rank 5 Gu masters, that would truly be the gathering of experts, the rise of snakes and dragons. Tai Ruanan felt a flash of inspiration, and realized. She finally understood why Tai Mu Bai did not fight to the death with those 2 demonic Gu masters. That is because his future enemies were not only these 2. Fighting with all he had so early on would only benefit others. Towards the end of the 3 kings' inheritance, the Gu masters would receive greater and better rewards. Those who truly understood the blessed land, had already been preparing for the final battle. Central Continent. Tian Ti Mountain. Hu immortal blessed land. I am finally at the mountain waste. Fang Jing breathed roughly, sweat dripping from his forehead. His arms and legs were numb and sore, they had no energy left. Using his own strength, and climbing to this level, it had squeezed out all the potential he had in his soul. The mountain winds blew, and a strong feeling of dizziness hit him, causing Fang Jing to feel like he was going to fall. His entire vision was spinning. After his soul was expended to the max, he even lost the ability to think. In his daze, he heard from within his aperture, the incubating flea, "Good, very good, my good disciple, you have endured this far, it was not easy. You have succeeded, now it will be up to your master me." Saying so, Fang Jing felt a formless energy flowing into the deepest part of his soul. The falling feeling immediately disappeared, like a child who was learning how to walk but was suddenly assisted by an adult. His vision became clear, and Fang Zheng's dizziness vanished at a rapid speed. Fang Zheng breathed in deeply several times. He felt fantastic. Like a traveler in the desert, about to die of thirst, but suddenly drinking fresh water. Or like someone who had worked non-stop all the time, suddenly sleeping 7 days and 7 nights. Everything became great. He felt awesome. Good disciple, make use of your time, and climb quickly. Lord Sky Crane urged. Yes, master. Fang Zheng's eyes were shining like a tiger's. He raised his head, and saw Feng Jin Huang and others, leading far ahead, but they were getting slower. Fang Zheng felt an unprecedented sense of confidence. I can do it. With master's help, I can definitely defeat these geniuses, and became the sole inheritor of Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fang Zheng, hang in there. After encouraging himself for a bit, Fang Zheng continued climbing. His movements became fast and steady. His speed was extremely fast, like he was bursting out his second wind. This performance attracted people's attention and emphasis. After Hu Immortal Blessed Land opened, it was connected to the outside world. Thus, the 10 Gu immortals outside the Blessed Land immediately found out Fang Zheng's weird condition. This child, he was at his limit, and was about to be eliminated. How did he suddenly get so energetic? Something strange. This speed is even faster than Feng Jin Huang and the others. This junior is from Immortal Crane sect. So that's it, I see. The 10 Gu immortals exchanged their thoughts, and someone quickly found out Fang Zheng's trump card. He Feng Yang, you sure are generous. Spirit incubating flea is not precious, but to ensure the flea still works, you used one's own Wei Gu, didn't you? He Feng Yang was one of Immortal Crane sect's supreme elders. He had a rank 6, one's own Wei Gu, everyone knew that. One's own Wei Gu, it allowed other Gu worms to operate in the Blessed Land. It was an expenditure Gu, only usable for 3 times. After 3 times, it would vanish into thin air. He Feng Yang, you had great schemes, using this secret chess piece. I'm flattered. Among the youngsters, Myriad Dragon Dock has Xianxia, Spirit Affinity House has Feng Jin Huang, Spirit Butterfly Valley has Xiaoqi Xing. We Immortal Crane sect cannot contend, thus we had to do this. He Feng Yang was very modest and low-key. The other Gu immortals could only laugh dryly. They had their own rank 6 Gu worms, but they did not have one's own Wei Gu. They could not provide such assistance. Rank 6 Gu worms were immortal Gu, one in the world. At any point in time, in the whole wide world, only one exists. Immortal Gu were so much rarer than rank 5 Gu worms. Many rank 6 immortals do not even have one immortal Gu. Back in Fang Yuan's previous life, he became an immortal. But to refine his first rank 6 Spring-Autumn Cicada, he spent a massive amount of time and effort. The moment he succeeded, the righteous path attacked him. Their motive was the immortal Gu. The 10 Gu immortals here, because they relied on their sects, they all had their trump cards. But even then, they only had 1 to 2 immortal Gu. He Feng Yan had the one's own Wei Gu, that means that other Gu immortals did not. The most important thing was, He Feng Yang's act did not exceed their bottom line, nor did he break the rules of the game. The other Gu immortals could only watch from here, unable to interfere. It is a pity my immortal Gu specializes in attack. If I use it, that would be attacking the Hu immortal inheritance. It would not work. Although I have a defensive immortal Gu to protect the soul, my disciples do not have the immortal essence needed to activate it. Otherwise, Hu immortal inheritance would be ours for sure. The results are not determined yet. This disciple from Immortal Crane sect has the help of the spirit incubating flea and has a huge advantage. But he was lagging behind from the start. We will have to see what happens from now. 80 years ago, He Feng Yang used the one's own Wei Gu. This is the second time. That means, the one's own Wei Gu in his hand can only be used one more time. He paid such a huge price, only to gain an advantage in competing for the inheritance. The other Gu immortals assessed, and decided to remain observers, not making their moves yet. On Xianxia Mountain, 3 pillars of light shot into the sky. The 3 kings' inheritance opened again, strongly attracting all the southern border Gu masters. Just as Tai Mu Bai said, on Xianxia Mountain, experts started to gather, and a storm was brewing. Did you hear? Just yesterday, Li Fei Lu came to Xianxia Mountain. Ah, you mean, sturdy as a mountain Li Fei Lu? Soon, another established expert came to Xianxia Mountain. Li Fei Li's cultivation was rank 4 upper stage, an earth path Gu master. His title was sturdy as a mountain, an expert in defense. He was Li clan's rising star, and was nurtured greatly by the clan. But this person was dedicated towards pursuing strength. Dedication after losing one's direction, becomes obsession. To pursue the greatest strength, he killed people to refine Gu, and was not accepted by the righteous path, becoming a demonic path cultivator. Li Fei Lu was only the start. In the month after, more and more established Gu masters arrived at Xianxia Mountain. The enslavement path Gu master Zhang San, when he was rank 3 peak stage, he killed a rank 4 Gu master. Now that he was rank 4 middle stage, people called him the enslavement master. The righteous path expert Tao Zi, he had a famous rank 5 healing Gu that was renowned in southern border, Spirit Peach Gu. There was also Yun Luo Tian, young clan leader of Yun clan, Wind Path Gu master, reaching rank 3 peak stage at age 23. Right now, he was 35, a step away from rank 4 peak stage. More and more famous Gu masters, like Shark Smelling Blood, stepped into Xianxia Mountain, competing for the 3 kings' inheritance and trying to get their share of the pie. These Gu masters had at least rank 3 upper stage cultivation, and some were even rank 4 realm. A month later, Xianxia Mountain saw its 4th rank 5 Gu master. Wang Xiao. He was the owner of Wu Mountain, a demonic Gu master, rank 5 poison cultivator, a true overlord of his area. 2 months later, Wu clan's Wulan Shan arrived. As the number 1 clan, Wu clan had always been dominating southern border. The Wulan Shan they sent was the younger cousin of Wu clan leader. Once she appeared, she held a great battle with Wang Xiao. Although the battle ended in a draw, her performance showed she exceeded Ku Mo and Wu Gui. Another 8 days later, Chou Jiu, who was famous among the demonic cultivators, appeared on Xianxia Mountain's mountain foot, causing a commotion. Chou Jiu was also rank 5, but had little battle strength. He was a healing Gu master, the famous killer ghost doctor, one of the 4 great doctors together with Dr. Su Shou, traveling Dr. Jiu Ji, and divine Dr. Xing Shou. He had a strange personality, having this weird rule: anyone he heals needs to kill a person for him in return. He saves a life, and takes another. Thus people call him, Killer Ghost Doctor. He who walks by the river is bound to get his shoes wet. In this cruel world, Gu masters cannot avoid getting injured and sick, they will have to beg a doctor for help eventually. The 4 great doctors healed both demonic and righteous. Once the Killer Ghost Doctor ascended Xianxia Mountain, he was invited by Tai Mu Bai earnestly, and the 2 drank happily in a banquet. Time passed by quickly, the 3 kings' inheritance opened and closed, closed and opened. This day, 3 kings' inheritance opened again. At the mountain foot, 2 people appeared. Soon, people recognized them, screaming in shock, the black and white twin demons, they are here again. Chapter 376, Fang Yuan Court's Death. On the mountain peak, 3 light pillars of red, blue, and yellow presented themselves before the people. Compared to the start, observant people could see that these 3 pillars had dimmed greatly, at the same time their size had shrunk, less than half of the original. This Gu immortal blessed land that originated from ancient times, had reached its final moments. After being remodeled by the three kings, it was starting to collapse under the plundering of countless Gu masters. It was like a sinking ship, the seawater had submerged more than half of it, only the sail and mast are still floating. Old clan leader Tai, you first. After considering for a while, Wulan Shan cupped her fists politely at Tai Mu Bai. Among the rank 5 Gu masters present, Tai Mu Bai was still the one with greatest strength. On this Xianxia mountain, he was the number 1 person of the rank 5s. Even throughout southern border, he was a top-tier rank 5 Gu master. Tai Mu Bai's status was publicly recognized. Even opponents like Ku Mo and Wu Gui had to admit this point. Tai Mu Bai looked at the 3 pillars, nodding, then I will go first. His every action was under everyone's observation. The few thousand Gu masters at the inheritance entrance were all looking at him. Tai Mu Bai took the lead, entering King Xian inheritance. Wu Gui and Ku Mo looked at each other. Since Tai Mu Bai chose King Xian inheritance, they should avoid encountering him. Between rank 5 Gu masters, they tend to avoid such unnecessary competition. The final battle at the end was the stage for them to unleash their true abilities. After Tai Mu Bai, Wulan Shan, Wang Xiao and the others all chose their respective entrances, entering the inheritance. Next, Yi Hua was the first rank 4 peak stage Gu master to enter, followed by the others. On Xianxia Mountain, righteous and demonic Gu masters were gathered together. Enemies who usually fought on sight became extremely orderly when it came to such huge benefits. But at this moment, the quiet mountain peak became noisy. First, it was the Gu masters standing at the outside area discussing among themselves. Soon, Gu masters in the inner circle also turned their heads to look. It is the black and white twin demons, they are finally back. Some recognized the source of the commotion, and exclaimed. They are the black and white twin demons. The recent rising stars of the demonic path. Some people saw Fang and Bai for the first time and observed them closely. These 2 youngsters are not simple. One was trapped by the Tai clan old-timers for months without falling. The other is even stronger, fighting 7 Tai clansmen single-handedly and even killing Tai Ba Xiu. Someone introduced. Fang and Bai had caused a great commotion in Xianxia Mountain, it left a deep impression on them. Now, many people could still vividly recall the scene. Tai Ba Xiu. I fought against him before. Fang Zheng is truly not simple, being able to kill him at such a young age. Someone nodded, his expression turning solemn. From what I see, his present age overlord is just an overstatement. Letting a junior get famous, he is a disgrace to his generation. A Gu master scoffed. So what if the black and white demons came? Times are different now, on Xianxia Mountain, there are 6 rank 5 Gu masters. The 2 of them are rank 4 Gu masters, they can't do anything here. That's right, especially after Fang Zheng killed some Tai clansmen, Tai Mu Bai would not let him off. But he is really daring, still having the guts to come here. Isn't it obvious, he only dared to show up after Tai Mu Bai entered the inheritance. The people discussed softly, all sorts of gazes were on Fang and Bai, curiosity, inspection, solemn, and frivolous. There were also many others who did not look at them, but placed their sights on another person. This person was standing among the rank 4 Gu masters, tight clothing with eyes shining like stars, tightly knit eyebrows, it was Tai Roanan. Tai Roanan was a rank 4 Gu master, she naturally stood with the rank 4 Gu masters to enter the inheritance. Although Tai Mu Bai was the number 1 person on Xianxia Mountain, he had to follow the rules, and be an example. Otherwise, he would not be able to control the Gu masters on Xianxia mountain. This was the conduct of a leader of the righteous path. Fang Zheng, it's you. Tai Ruanan stood out from the people, staring fiercely at Fang Yuan, her tone extremely agitated. Seeing Fang Yuan, the enemy who had so many Tai clansmen's blood on his hands, the young girl's heart was filled with hatred and anger. She wanted to go and kill him immediately. Her tightly clenched fists slowly loosened. Tightened and loosened, loosened and tightened. Such a repetitive action showed the struggle in her heart. Eventually, Tai Ruanan opened her palm, breathing out deeply, her eyes regaining clarity. Little Beast King, you do not have to worry about old clan leader's attack. Your life is mine. One day, I will kill you, and offer it to the heroic spirit of my Tai clansmen. Just you wait. Saying so, the young girl turned around and entered the light pillar, vanishing. Is Tai Ruanan afraid? She left without fighting. It seems Little Beast King's dominance remains. This Tai clan young master did not dare to battle. I feel that this young girl was smart. The Three Kings' inheritance is in front of her, such a rare event should be treasured. What is the point of fighting and killing now? Fang Yuan frowned deeply. Tai Ruanan's performance surprised him. Being able to control her furious emotions, it was not an easy task. Many famous Gu masters could not do it. Tai Ruanan. I cannot let you grow further. This was rare. Fang Yuan felt threat from someone of the same generation. The things Tai Mu Bai taught Tai Ruanan were not a secret, everyone knew about it. Fang Yuan, of course, knew clearly. Tai Ruanan had talent, aptitude, and her heart was determined. Adding in the nurturing of the clan, she was like a swallow soaring into the heavens. One day, she will rise beyond the clouds, and turn into a phoenix. Controlling the killing intent in his heart, Fang Yuan walked towards the inheritance entrance. A large portion of the rank 4 Gu masters gave way to them immediately. Hold it. Suddenly, a righteous Gu master walked up and blocked their paths. This righteous Gu master wore white clothing, his sleeves were wide and swayed with the wind, and he had a handsome face. It was none other than Yun Clan's young clan leader, Yun Luo Tian. Little Beast King, I heard you killed Tai Basho. Yun Luo Tian stood before Fang Yuan. After giving him a glance, he started to observe by Ning Bing. Do you know? He pointed at Fang Yuan, saying arrogantly, you won in an unfair way, you used a flying Gu and killed a member of my righteous faction, you took the easy way out. The atmosphere was extremely heavy. Yun Luo Tian's words were very offensive, and Fang Yuan was an arrogant person. At this rate, they were going to fight. Many Gu masters took steps back, getting away from these two. Under everyone's gaze, Fang Yuan's eyes were eerie as he looked at Yun Luo Tian, nodding, suddenly laughing. You are right, I used a loophole and killed Tai Basho, sorry about that. Yun Luo Tian was stunned. He did not think that this Little Beast King would reply this way. Isn't this different from the information about him? These years of closed cultivation, he had trained in the art of flying. He feels that his flying skills were not inferior to the few flying experts of southern border. Thus, he wanted to challenge Fang Yuan, and build his reputation. But Fang Yuan was so courteous, he could not continue finding problems with him. Demonic cultivators were evil and ruthless, but he was a righteous member, and the young clan leader of Yun Clan. His every action was closely inspected. After all, it represented Yun Clan's image. Yun Luo Tian stood dazed for a moment before calming his mind. We let young master Tai Ruanan go first because we admire old clan leader Tai Mu Bai. Since you know you had an unfair victory, you should stand down now. There are so many heroes and geniuses here, it is not your turn to enter yet. Yun Luo Tian waved his sleeve at Fang Yuan, speaking plainly. Although he secretly flattered the people around him, it caused them to become even more nervous, and everyone felt a storm approaching. Just as everyone was preparing for battle, Fang Yuan took a step back. "Sir, makes sense. It was my fault, you guys should go first." Yun Luo Tian laughed loudly, waving his sleeves and relaxed, walking towards the light pillar, entering after tens of steps. Although he did not fight with Fang Yuan, he felt the gains were greater. Not long after, words would spread that he challenged Little Beast King verbally, and scared this demonic rising star till he retreated. At that time, his reputation would surge, and Yun Clan's reputation in the righteous faction would rise as well. After Yun Luo Tian entered the inheritance, Fang Yuan and Bai Ningbing entered King Bao inheritance together. Seeing them disappear, the remaining rank 4 Gu masters started conversing. "Is this still Little Beast King? He is so polite. Did he take the wrong medicine, or did I see wrongly? This world is changing too quickly." "Hee, Little Beast King gave in, he is such a coward. If it was me, I would have rolled up my sleeves and fought." Sigh, his opponent is Yun Luo Tian after all. Although Yun Clan is not a super clan, it is still a first-class clan. After his vision of the spinning world calmed down, Fang Yuan assessed his surroundings. Gray-white sky, light red ground, extended towards the horizons. On the ground, there were pieces of volcanic rocks, hot rising steam, or gray dust cloud. Devil again, they descended again. "My companions, quickly gather together. As long as we fight together, we can defeat the Demon King. Come, our Hongdan village can only be protected by ourselves." The top of volcanic rocks were flipped over, and tiny humans walked out. These tiny people were the size of babies, they were pink and tender, extremely cute. Most importantly, at the middle of their chests, they had a cute and round red egg. These were the Eggmen. Similar to the hairy men, they were variant humans. Fang Yuan gave a glance, and knew these were the red Eggmen among the Eggmen. The egg on them were red, and they used the large volcanic rocks to build their houses, and lived inside. At this moment, Fang Yuan could only use one exploding egg goo. King Bao Inheritance's aim was to make Fang Yuan use the exploding egg goo to exterminate these red Eggmen. That way, he can advance to the next round. Facing the assaulting red Eggmen, Fang Yuan did not move. He let them attack him. These attacks accumulated, quickly injuring him heavily. Fang Yuan could not breathe properly, he was bathed in blood and the feeling of death was creeping up on him. At this moment, even if he used the exploding egg goo, it could not change the situation. Letting himself get into such a dangerous situation, Fang Yuan's lips curled into a smile. This moment has finally arrived. Chapter 377, Refining an Immortal Goo. A bunch of short red Eggmen encircled Fang Yuan, attacking constantly. Is this devil a fool? Why is he not moving? If only all devils were such fools, that would be great. Do not let your guard down, devils are extremely crafty, quickly kill him. Seeing Fang Yuan about to die, the red Eggmen cheered victoriously. But at this moment, a formless energy descended and swept Fang Yuan away. Falling into encirclement, the dying and unconsciously Fang Yuan vanished without a trace, leaving behind a bunch of shocked red Eggmen. When Fang Yuan woke up from his slumber, the scenery before him was completely different than before. This was a dark blue-colored hall. The hall was extremely plain, made with large cube bronze blocks. There were a lot of moss on the blocks, showing how long they have already existed. Fang Yuan laid on the center of the hall, feeling the chill from the bronze block under his back. I've already healed your injuries. A large tortoise opened its wrinkled eyes slowly, staring at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan slowly got up from the ground, first touching his own body. His injuries were truly healed. Next, he looked around the hall in a calm expression. Lastly, he turned his gaze over towards the huge tortoise before him. This huge tortoise was large as a house, a thick and hard jade thin shell on its back. Its 4 legs were like elephant legs, and there were 2 dragon whiskers growing out of its face. Fang Yuan looked at this huge tortoise, his lips curling into a smile, as his smile turned into laughter. Ha ha ha. His laughter echoed in the hall. He purposely courted death, not even using the spring-autumn cicada. It was all because of his previous life's knowledge and information. There was a huge risk involved. It could be said, one wrong move and game over. But a demonic cultivator moved forward relentlessly. They were most skilled at all-in gambles. Right now, Fang Yuan reached the main hall, and his risks had all paid off. After laughing heartily, Fang Yuan stopped laughing, facing the huge tortoise. Land Spirit Ba Gui, you finally awakened from your slumber. You know me? The huge tortoise's voice created vibrations as there was some suspicion in its eyes. That's right, I know you, and I also know the secret of this blessed land. Fang Yuan nodded, walking in the hall with his hands behind his back. This blessed land originated from an ancient strength path Gu immortal. The Gu immortal protected the blessed land, resisting calamities and tribulations, but eventually, he died in one of the tribulations. His dying wish gathered with this blessed land's heavenly power, formed the land spirit. That is you, Ba Gui. As long as I complete his wish before he died, I can become the new owner of this blessed land. Am I right about that? Fang Yuan spoke openly, not beating about the bush. Although the land spirit is formed from the Gu immortal, it is no longer human, but merely the immortal's will. Using an explanation from Earth, that would be, a pre-programmed AI-1. As long as the land spirit's requirement is met, one can gain its recognition and become the new owner of the blessed land. Thus, when Fang Yuan spoke, there was no need for any schemes or plots. The huge tortoise nodded. That's right, his final wish before dying is also the blessed land's test. As long as you can complete it, you can become my master. And the contents of this wish, is to refine the second aperture Gu, right? Fang Yuan followed. During ancient times, strength path flourished. 8 out of 10 Gu masters walked the strength path. This blessed land's original master, was a strength path Gu immortal. He created the recipe for second aperture Gu. But right before the crucial step, he died in a tribulation. After he died, this final obsession became the land spirit. That is, the huge tortoise before Fang Yuan now. To complete this wish, the huge tortoise had been waiting aimlessly. But time passed, and no one that fulfilled the criteria showed up. This fated person, had to be a strength path Gu master, owned beast phantoms, and also strong to a degree. Next, this strength path Gu master had to be on the brink of death to receive this opportunity. This is because, the blessed land's previous owner had a lot of lingering grudge and hatred, refusing to let others gain his fortune so easily. But he still wanted to refine the second aperture Gu, thus there was such a requirement for the fated person to be as close to death as possible, just like him. Only someone who had shared his emotion could be qualified to gain everything. But time passed, and the calamities and tribulations continued to occur. The land spirit Ba Gui could not find a suitable strength path Gu master. To preserve its immortal essence, it could only choose to slumber helplessly. The wide and huge blessed land, after many calamities and tribulations, had shrunk to less than 1% of its original size. One calamity was enough to puncture 1,000 holes in the blessed land. Thus, there was a hole created, and a path to the outside world was connected to the blessed land. 3 roaming kids came here and relied on the blessed land's resources to cultivate to fruition. These were the 3 kings of the demonic path. After the 3 kings got their revenge, they returned to the blessed land to live. As time passed, they got more familiar with the blessed land and were a step away from rank 6. But in the end, none of them broke through, and before dying, they remodeled the place into the 3 kings' inheritance ground. The 3 kings walked on the refinement, fire, and enslavement path. None was a strength path Gu master. The moment the remodeling began, the land spirit was woken up. It watched silently without stopping them. It wanted to use this inheritance to attract qualified strength path Gu masters as well. When the 3 kings' inheritance opened, countless Gu masters entered, and increased the blessed land's immortal essence expenditure. As the blessed land faced the risk of destruction, the huge tortoise awakened from its slumber. After waking up, the first thing the land spirit did was to find the fated person. In the entire blessed land, there were many strength path Gu masters. But those who fulfilled its requirements were none. In ancient times, strength path was mainstream. But now that times have changed, strength path was eliminated, on the brink of extinction. Those who truly cultivated strength path to a high level, were even rarer. Hearing Fang Yuan talk about the second aperture Gu, the land spirit Ba Gui was stunned. You know a lot. It felt strange, but did not pursue the matter. To it, the fated person had already been found. Now the next target was to refine the second aperture Gu. However, it was not easy to refine second aperture Gu. That is because, second aperture Gu was not a mortal Gu, it was a rank 6 immortal Gu. But Fang Yuan was already mentally prepared, directly asking, second aperture Gu is a rank 6 Gu. Rank 5 is mortal, rank 6 is immortal. To refine an immortal Gu, the most basic condition is immortal essence. In the blessed land, how much immortal essence is left? The tortoise turned its body, gazing deep within the hull. The flooring cracked open, as a hole appeared, and a bronze cauldron rose slowly. Eventually, the flooring closed up, leaving the cauldron alone in the hull. This cauldron had 3 legs and 2 handles. It was filled with immortal essence inside. The immortal essence was a greenish water, crystal clear and giving off a rusty smell. There was very little immortal essence, only a thin layer left in the cauldron, and as time flowed, it slowly decreased drop by drop. This is because, after the blessed land opened, countless Gu masters explored, and entered and left multiple times, expending immortal essence. But this is already much better than in my previous life. As long as I ration it properly. Fang Yuan looked at this layer of immortal essence, thinking deeply, as sparks seemed to be flying above his head. In his previous life, after the 3 kings' inheritance opened, the land spirit waited but did not meet its fated owner. Only towards the end of the inheritance did the land spirit find a suitable, dying strength path Gu master and transported him in. This lucky person was a demonic path member, surviving the ordeal and benefiting from the crisis. However, he was very poor at refining Gu worms. When he started the refinement process, he died. Towards the end, Gu masters had a great understanding of the 3 kings' inheritance, and knew when to advance and retreat. They all had some trump cards or tokens to preserve their lives, and could easily leave at will. Towards the end, the blessed land could not sustain it much more, and Gu masters could freely use their Gu worms, fighting and causing bloodshed. Where there are battles, there are deaths and injuries. The land spirit found a chance, and chose a few strength path Gu masters from among them. But by then, it was already too late. There was a severe lack of immortal essence, and the land spirit was severely weakened, unable to do anything. In the end, the blessed land continued to break down, as Gu masters found this hull. Arriving here, they battled with the land spirit, and killed the strength path Gu master who was refining the Gu. Only then did they know that Xianxia Mountain's blessed land held such a secret. But at that time, immortal essence was expended, and the land spirit was dead. The Gu refinement ended in utter failure. The legendary second aperture Gu became extinct before the first one was even created. Second aperture Gu, allowing a Gu master to have a second aperture. Even an idiot would know the value of this Gu. I have a great aptitude now. One aperture holds 90% primeval essence. If I have the second aperture Gu, I would have 180% primeval essence. At the same time, I can have double the primeval essence recovery speed, and even a second set of Gu worms. My battle strength will surge, and create history for myself. Once I succeed, I will definitely be the strongest person among the same rank. Fang Yuan was secretly excited. But to refine this immortal Gu, the process was really difficult. It would not be an easy task. Even Tai Mu Bai would feel stunned at this. But to Fang Yuan, it was another situation altogether. Firstly, he was a rank 6 Gu immortal in his past life who used the spring-autumn cicada to rebirth. He also succeeded in refining the spring-autumn cicada. He had the precious experience of creating an immortal Gu. Secondly, ever since the Three Kings' inheritance opened, he had been plotting. He challenged strength path Gu masters everywhere, eliminating his competition. Shui Sanxi, Century Boy, they were all chosen by the land spirit in his previous life, but now, they died in Fang Yuan's hands. Lastly, he had the help of the land spirit. In his previous life, the land spirit was already very weak when he saw the first lucky person. Towards the end, it was so feeble it got killed by a bunch of mortals. But this life was different. Fang Yuan approached death purposely, coming here in advance. He would receive great help from the land spirit. Back then, that Gu immortal had made ample preparations to refine this Gu. With such a foundation, I have at least 50% chance of succeeding in this refinement. Back when Fang Yuan refined spring-autumn cicada, he had less than 20% chance of succeeding. Now that he was refining the second aperture Gu, he had 50%, it was extremely high. Chapter 378, He is Dead. Soon, Fang Yuan calmed down. Second aperture Gu was only an opportunity. To make it a reality, it needed planning and effort. Whether the refinement of second aperture Gu succeeds or fails, a large amount of immortal essence will be consumed. Without immortal essence, the blessed land cannot contend against the upcoming earthly calamity and heavenly tribulation. That is to say, even if I become the owner of the blessed land, this blessed land can no longer be saved and I will have to give up on it. Thus, second aperture Gu will be my greatest reward for this trip. However, the whole matter was not so easy and simple. The situation Fang Yuan was facing now was extremely complex. With the start of the refinement of second aperture Gu, the remaining immortal essence would start decreasing sharply, the blessed land would weaken greatly and the assistance the land spirit could give would become lesser and lesser. At the same time, he also needed to consider the Gu masters within the blessed land. If they discovered this main hall, they were sure to attack together just like in his previous life and disrupt the process of the Gu refinement. Fang Yuan's eyes flashed with sharp light and after pondering for a while, he took the initiative to demand, Land Spirit, tell me the recipe for refining the second aperture Gu. Land Spirit Ba Gui slowly nodded its head and its deep voice entered Fang Yuan's ears. Then listen properly, this is the full content of the recipe. Rotten soil blood powder, treasure flower in the earth. Jade bone turned into petals, ice muscles into stalks and golden relic into the heart of the flower. A bright stellar fire, gather ice and snow into plains. Yang cloud burns with elixir fire below and een cloud scatter sand like gold above, add beast phantoms in the middle until lightning crackles, creating beast strength placenta, and start collecting apertures. Wild grass grow wildly, the chi of blood like the sea. 300 years as spring, 500 years as autumn. With unlimited divine opportunity, swim and roam in the wilds, adding in third watch, and another third watch, obtaining 9. 9 as extreme, the refinement is complete. The recipe content was huge and had close to 10,000 words. Fang Yuan's expression turned grave as he listened. There were up to 1,000 steps in refining this second aperture Gu. The early stage involved hundreds of types of materials, the middle stage used up large numbers of rank 4 and rank 5 Gu, and it continued to become more arduous as it got closer to the last step, until finally, it needed the use of another rank 6 immortal Gu. This is not good. The difficulty in refining second aperture Gu is many times higher than I estimated. The intel in my previous life only talked of the early stage of the recipe mixed with much misinterpretation from the people involved. Fang Yuan's heart sank, the 50% confidence he had turned to about 30% after he heard the recipe. You don't need to worry too much. Large amounts of materials and Gu worms for refining second aperture Gu had already been stored in this main hall. With the land spirit's words, the whole main hall was suffused with dark blue light. The brilliant radiance shone over the main hall, the relief sculptures on the surface of the main hall suddenly protruded out and turned into solid. Fang Yuan was amazed at this change. This is clearly a kind of storage method. This is the first time I am seeing it. Sigh, many methods of the ancient era had disappeared along the river of time. Materials after materials of all kinds dazzled his eyes. There were at least 5,000 Gu worms from rank 1 to rank 5, among them, there were over 600 rank 4 Gu and no less than 80 rank 5 Gu. Rank 5 Gu which were very rare in the outside world had unexpectedly numbered to almost 100 at this main hall. And the expensive rank 4 Gu had apparently become as rare as cabbages here. So many top-tier materials. There are so many Gu which I have never seen. These strength path Gu, if I obtain them, my battle strength will definitely rise by over 10 folds. And there are also over 10 yellow gold relic Gu along with 8 purple crystal relic Gu. If I use them, I will be able to advance to rank 5 peak stage within moments. Fang Yuan looked at these rank 4 and rank 5 Gu, and had a thought of giving up the refinement of second aperture Gu and directly taking all these Gu worms. However, this impulse was immediately extinguished by him. With the land spirit beside him keeping guard, these Gu worms could only be used to refine second aperture Gu and he was unable to use them for his personal use. Secondly, second aperture Gu would be a great help in the future if it was refined, and it would provide enormous help even at rank 6 realm. Second aperture Gu was a long-term investment and its benefits would soar to the sky especially after one reached rank 6. There is still one extremely crucial Gu worm left. Ba Gui said and opened his eyes, using all his strength to control this main hall. The blue radiance increased sharply and reached an unbearable intensity. The immortal essence in the bronze cauldron began to deplete bit by bit. Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes, and within this blue light, he saw a confined immortal Gu. It was like a round gem, the gem's whole body was yellow and was hollow inside with a ball of purple smoke in it. This smoke transformed constantly, suddenly turning into a Pegasus or an immortal crane the next moment, or changing into a moving cloud or pure thunderbolt. Following its appearance, a strong wine fragrance spread through the whole main hall. Fang Yuan took a few breaths and immediately felt drunk, his eyes turned hazy and his mind became dizzy, he immediately held his breath. This is the rank 6 immortal Gu, divine travel. The land spirit introduced. Divine travel Gu. Fang Yuan opened his eyes wide and stared at this Gu without even blinking. Divine Travel Gu was very mysterious and also legendary. Its earliest appearance was the first classic of Gu. It appeared to be a story when one first read it, but it actually held profound messages, recording the secrets of the ancient times and all kinds of Gu. Some Gu were directly described like wisdom Gu, strength Gu, and so on. And some Gu were hidden, their descriptions were very vague, requiring the readers to dig through it and study carefully. In the legends of Ren Zhu, Divine Travel Gu's earliest appearance was beside Verdant Great Sun. Verdant Great Sun drank 4 different top-tier wines in the world. The dense liquor aura in his body congealed into Divine Travel Gu. Divine Travel Gu had the power to send the Gu Master to any place in the world. But its activation required the Gu Master to be in a drunken state, and its destination also could not be controlled. Verdant Great Sun was transported to many dangerous places and suffered a lot due to Divine Travel Gu, his life on the line several times. Divine Travel Gu might be one of the 4 great movement Gu and is very powerful at that, but its flaw is extremely big. Who would dare to use it? Even Verdant Great Sun had no choice but to refine Divine Travel Gu into fixed immortal Travel Gu in the end. No wonder the original master of this blessed land chose this Gu to refine into second aperture Gu. Fixed immortal Travel Gu was also one of the 4 great movement Gu and could send the Gu Master to any place they wanted to, even if the destination was at the edge of the world. But the prerequisite was that the Gu Master needed to have a concrete impression of their destination. If there was any huge changes to their destination, they would fail in using the fixed immortal Travel Gu. Fang Yuan carefully pondered and understood the intentions of this ancient strength path Gu Immortal. Divine Travel Gu might be at the noble rank 6, but its every use carried extremely high risk and had low worth in using. Thus, Verdant Great Sun refined it into fixed immortal Travel Gu, while this ancient strength path Gu Master thought of using it to refine second aperture Gu. The land spirit Ba Gui carefully resealed the Divine Travel Gu and asked, "When do you plan on beginning the refinement?" "There is no rush, let me first study this recipe properly." Fang Yuan sat cross-legged on the spot and closed his eyes to contemplate. Humans were the spirit of all living beings and Gu were the essence of the world. After a Gu Master's cultivation reached a profound level, they would understand a principle: a Gu Master using Gu was not simply using the Gu worms as a tool. But rather, it was a way to understand heaven and earth. Gu worms were the vessels that carry the law fragments of the great Tao. Refining Gu was not simply following random steps but was based on the understanding of law fragments. A recipe not only contained the process of refining Gu, but even more importantly, it contained its creator's comprehension of heaven and earth. From this recipe, Fang Yuan could study the experimentation and insights of the original owner of this blessed land, the ancient strength path Gu Immortal. And when he compared them with his own experiences, he would gain an even deeper understanding of the great Tao. This was absolutely a beneficial matter. Gu Master can only have one aperture from birth. If there was a second aperture, this would truly be an act of defying heaven. I see why Divine Travel Gu was chosen. Fang Yuan opened his eyes after a long while, gaining a deeper understanding of the whole refinement process. Land Spirit, let's start the refinement. Okay. Land Spirit immediately responded and gave 2 kinds of materials and a Gu worm to Fang Yuan. First material was green pond rotten soil, which originated 10,000 feet deep under a rotten and poisonous marsh, and was extremely toxic. Even Fang Yuan's arm would be rotten within a few breaths if he touched it. Second material was a blood-colored powder which had a rather large origin. The blood of 8 kinds of immemorial desolate beasts were mixed, solidified and then grinded to form this powder. The Gu worm, however, was common and Fang Yuan had come in touch with it at Qing Mao Mountain. It was Earth Treasury Flower. Earth Treasury Flower was a storage Gu. Flower Wine Monk planted it in the depths of the cave to store several goo worms which were obtained by Fang Yuan in the end. With the land spirit's assistance, Fang Yuan mixed the green pond rotten soil and 8 desolate blood powder. After the mixture became an evenly distributed soil, he planted the earth treasury flower in it. Earth treasury flower immediately decayed and died when it entered the soil. Whether it was the toxicity of the green pond rotten soil or the violent nature of the 8 desolate blood powder, they both were something the earth treasury flower could not endure easily. However, Fang Yuan had already anticipated this situation and was not discouraged. Land Spirit took out another earth treasury flower goo, and Fang Yuan casually planted it. That ancient strength path Gu Immortal had already foreseen the probability of failure in every step and had thus prepared enough spare material. After continuously failing several times, Fang Yuan finally succeeded in planting the earth treasury flower in the soil. Green pool rotten soil's toxicity in the blood power of the 8 desolate blood powder formed a kind of subtle balance, causing a strange transformation within the earth treasury flower goo. This was the first step of the recipe: rotten soil blood powder, treasure flower in the earth. Next was jade bone turned into petals, ice muscles into stalks and golden relic into the heart of the flower. It required the use of jade bone goo, ice muscle goo and yellow golden relic goo along with skilled goo refinement techniques. Third step: bright stellar fire, gather ice and snow into plains. This could easily be misunderstood with stellar fire goo and snowy plain goo. But the firepower from that would be inadequate. In fact, the two phrases needed to be combined to be understood. The true answer was to use stellar fire prairie goo together with snowy plain goo, only then would there be balance. Fang Yuan followed the order one by one. At the fourth step, Yang cloud burns with elixir fire below and Yin cloud scatter sand like gold above. This tested his multitasking ability. Fang Yuan first used Yang cloud goo with elixir fire goo, then activated Yin cloud goo and used golden sand goo. The Yin and Yang clouds mixed with the smoke from previous steps. Spheres of fiery orange elixir fire rose up from the Yang cloud. The golden sand fell down from the Yin cloud like a light drizzle. Yin above and Yang below is anti-balance. This is the critical juncture. Go, White Elephant Beast Phantom. Fang Yuan's eyes burst out with divine light as he activated all-out effort goo and summoned White Elephant Phantom. White Elephant Phantom collided into the center of Yin and Yang clouds and was grinded down by elixir fire and golden sand. With a soft explosion, White Elephant Phantom turned into a ball of white light and revolved in the air. Again, Black Python Beast Phantom. Fang Yuan pointed and sacrificed another beast strength phantom. Black Python entered the center of the clouds and quickly turned into Black Ray and spun around the white light. The two were in an endless tangle. Stone Turtle Beast Phantom, Horse Beast Phantom. Another 2 beast phantoms flew out of Fang Yuan's body. For beast phantoms tangled against each other and formed a whirlpool of colorful light, but there was still something lacking. Strange. Why have they not fused? Fang Yuan was baffled. This was the first difficulty he had ran into. The colorful whirlpool was being grinded down by the elixir fire and the golden sand, and was continuously becoming smaller. The multiple auras could not fuse together. Fang Yuan suddenly had a thought as he looked at the process which was about to end in failure. Wait a second, could it be? He began to control the 4 beast phantoms. White Elephant Beast Phantom was steady and simple. Black Python Phantom was coiling and cold. Stone Turtle Phantom was still as a mountain. And Horse Beast Phantom ran with the wind. These 4 beast phantoms were just carelessly tangling with each other before, but under Fang Yuan's control now, each of them began to display their true disposition and nature. Boom! Thunder crackled and a strange transformation began. Yin and yang clouds moved, yin cloud sank down and yang cloud rose up, the two forming into a whole entity. The mist surged and mixed ceaselessly with lightning and thunder constantly crackling inside. So it was like that. No wonder it needed strength path Gu master, although those who merely possessed beast phantoms would still not be able to succeed. The Gu master must understand the true nature of each beast phantom to start the fusion. Fang Yuan let out a breath of relief and comprehended the process. Rumble. Lightning crackled and thunder exploded. The sound was like war drums, becoming more condensed and finally blending into one. Boom boom boom. Under continuous rumbling sounds, the mist completely fused into one color before suddenly exploding. A frenzy wind blew, dispersing all the clouds and mist. Only one Gu remained in the air. This Gu was rank 5 Gu and was like a disc. Its surface was rough like an embryo made of grass and soil. In the middle of the disc was a ferocious beast with the head of a horse, tusks of an elephant, body of a turtle and the tail of a snake. This is the beast strength placenta Gu. Fang Yuan relaxed his mind when he saw this Gu. The moment he relaxed, he fell down to the ground and fell asleep. He had used a total of 5 days and 5 nights to refine this Gu. He had not rested a moment during this time and had been multitasking the whole time. His mental energy had been used to the limits, and he was extremely exhausted. This sleep lasted for a day and a night before Fang Yuan woke up. He touched the beast strength placenta Gu and recalled the recipe. On cloud burns with elixir fire below and Yin cloud scatter sand like gold from above, add beast phantoms in the middle till lightning crackles, creating beast strength placenta, and start collecting apertures. Next is gathering apertures. Thinking of this, he stood up and said to the land spirit, Ba Gui, it is time. Ba Gui was also straightforward, alright, I can send you to wherever you want to go in the blessed land. A large map appeared in front of Fang Yuan along with all kinds of scenes, displaying everything in the blessed land. Everything from Gu masters, hairy men, dog beasts and so on were clearly shown. This place. Fang Yuan searched through the map before his gaze fixed on a place, and pointed at it. Next moment, Fang Yuan disappeared and appeared in front of Tai Mu Bai. Tai Mu Bai was exploring the inheritance and was slightly surprised by Fang Yuan's sudden appearance. But he calmed down soon and was just about to say something when Fang Yuan quickly waved his hand and luckily summoned a rock crocodile phantom. Bam! Tai Mu Bai's head was smacked by the rock crocodile's tail, and it exploded like a watermelon. He was dead. Chapter 379, All According to Plan. Fang Yuan killed Tai Mu Bai and immediately pounced on his headless corpse, grabbing his arm and letting his mind enter the aperture. The aperture walls were crystal clear, as the primeval sea ebbed and flowed. Rank 5 Gu masters have purple crystal primeval essence. Initial stage is light purple primeval essence, middle stage is violet purple primeval essence, upper stage is deep purple primeval essence, and peak stage is crystal purple primeval essence. Tai Mu Bai was a rank 5 peak stage Gu master. He had crystal clear primeval essence. Like the liquid form of crystals, great power was hidden within its beautiful appearance. The difference between rank 5 peak stage and rank 4 upper stage was very huge. Furthermore, he had 98% of such primeval essence, even 100 Fang Yuan could not compare to him. In the purple crystal primeval sea, there were Gu worms flying. A golden small hand flew randomly above the sea, like a golden light. This was Tai Mu Bai's vital Gu, the rank 5 Gu worm that he had once used when he battled Ku Mo and Wu Gui on San Cha Mountain, Turn Gold Gu. Turn Gold Gu had great power, any life form that was hit by hit would turn into pure gold, losing their life. Even Ku Mo and Wu Gui did not dare to take the attack head-on. As for Yihua, Kong Ri Tian and the other rank 4 peak stage cultivators, they did not even dare to observe the battle, taking the initiative to avoid them. This was Tai Mu Bai's strongest long-range attack method. If Fang Yuan tried to use long-range battle, the beast phantoms that possessed the strength chi would turn into golden statues after being hit by the golden light, sacrificing themselves. Fang Yuan would not be able to retrieve them anymore. Other than turn gold gu, at the bottom of the purple crystal sea, there was a yellow-gold current. This current was like melted gold, swimming at the bottom of the sea. This was the liquid metal gu, also rank 5, once activated, it had great defenses, and allowed a gu master to have no worries regarding defense. Most amazingly, it was liquid form, and could change its shape at will, even if it was broken through, it could regather itself like water, and was a tough nut to crack. If Tai Mu Bai used liquid metal gu, even if Fang Yuan used all his strength, he would not be able to break this defense. In the purple crystal sea, there was another eyeball. It seemed inconspicuous, but it gave off a golden light at times, gathering attention and was more alluring than the stars in the sky. This was the Vajraster Gu. It was also rank 5, but was not an investigative method, rather it was an attack-type Gu. Once activated by a Gu master, the formless stare gains attacking power, like a giant pole slamming into a person's heart. Once eye contact was made, it could directly attack an opponent's soul. This Gu was hidden by Tai Mu Bai, even during the battle against Ku Mo and Wu Gui, it was not used. Once used, it would be a contest of souls between both Gu masters, and the victor would be decided, it was a trump card that should only be used at the end. Tai Mu Bai had once used many different Gu to strengthen his soul's foundation. Meanwhile, Fang Yuan walked the strength path, his soul was not strengthened. If Tai Mu Bai used the Vajraster Gu, he just needed to maintain eye contact with Fang Yuan for a second, and Fang Yuan's soul would be completely destroyed. To use this Vajraster Gu, golden eyes have to be used. If one used ordinary eyes for this, they might turn themselves blind. Only by using 2 golden eye Gu, and turning one's own eyes into golden eyes could they use the Vajraster Gu safely. Evidently, since Tai Mu Bai had the Vajraster Gu, he naturally had golden eyes. Just like how Fang Yuan turned his skin into bronze skin, and bones into essence iron bones. Other than these 3 rank 5 Gu, Tai Mu Bai's body also had 4 rank 4 Gu worms. Golden Dragon Gu, Golden Breeze Gu, Golden Coat Gu, Golden Aurora Gu, all of them were outstanding Gu worms, and were high-quality Gu worms within the metal path. These Gu worms were all excavated by Fang Yuan. After confirming that Tai Mu Bai did not have any other Gu worms on him, Fang Yuan took out the beast strength placenta Gu, and activated it around Tai Mu Bai's stomach. After Tai Mu Bai lost his life, his aperture started to shrink. Right now, after being sucked by the beast strength placenta Gu, the aperture flew out of Tai Mu Bai's body, and landed in the placenta, devoured by the wild beast inside the placenta. After devouring the aperture, the rough and coarse beast strength placenta Gu became lustrous and shiny. The original embryo looked like it was made of soil and had crevices on the surface, but now it looked different, thick and tightly packed, just like a concrete brick. This beast strength placenta Gu was used like this, according to the Blessed Land's original owner's peculiar idea. Continuously absorbing Gu master's aperture, then slowly accumulating and changing qualitatively. To refine the second aperture Gu, apertures were naturally the main ingredient. The beast strength placenta Gu that was refined was intended to plunder other people's apertures. Killing lives to attain success, this was a demonic path method. One could easily tell that the ancient strength path Gu immortal was not a kind person. This beast strength placenta Gu, if others used it, they might feel guilt, but Fang Yuan was extremely fine with using it, he had no mental pressure at all. In his previous life, to refine the spring-autumn cicada, he killed people in more than 10,000 miles of land, blood flowed into a river as he caused an immense bloodshed in the world, he could not even count how many people he killed. How could killing a single Gu master now affect him? Good, good, good. This beast strength placenta Gu, after absorbing Tai Mu Bai's aperture, it already raised the second aperture Gu's aptitude to 40%. Great, excellent. Using numbers to make up for quality in order to break through, this is the rule of using sheer quantity to trigger a qualitative change. Going beyond the mortal world, and becoming an immortal Gu, how can there be no price to pay? Back then when I refined the spring-autumn cicada, I slaughtered over 10 million people, that was also because of this. The better the aperture that is absorbed and the larger the numbers, the higher the aptitude of the second aperture Gu that is refined in the future. Next, I have to kill Gu masters, go on a killing spree and use all their apertures to raise my beast strength placenta Gu. Ha ha ha, ha 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 ha. Fang Yuan inspected the beast strength placenta Gu carefully, extremely pleased and raised his head up as he laughed. Why did he kill Tai Clan's group? It was to make Tai Clan furious and send a rank 5 Gu master. The arrival of one rank 5 Gu master would break the balance, causing a chain reaction and attracting even more rank 5 Gu masters. These rank 5, rank 4 Gu masters are all my prey. To assist me in refining the second aperture Gu. Fang Yuan laughed. All his plots and schemes, these few years of planning, and all the risks he took, it was all for this moment. How incredibly amazing is this, this is the best feeling. Fang Yuan laughed heartily, his black hair flying with the wind, as demonic blaze burned in his eyes. Looking at actual battle strength, the rank 5 peak stage Tai Mu Bai was over 100 times stronger than Fang Yuan. Just simply the turn gold Gu, if Fang Yuan was hit, he would be dead, there was no way to survive. Even if Tai Mu Bai only used rank 4 Gu, his rank 5 peak stage crystal purple primeval essence was not something Fang Yuan's yellow gold primeval essence could compete with. But in the Three Kings' inheritance, Gu masters were restricted by the heavenly power, and were unable to use their Gu worms. At the same time, their defenses were all limited, and they became extremely fragile. But Fang Yuan was different. He has the land spirit's help. What was the land spirit? The Lord of the Blessed Land. With its help, Fang Yuan could use his Gu worms inside the Three Kings' inheritance. Meanwhile, Tai Mu Bai had his rank 5 peak stage cultivation, but his strong Gu set was unusable. Standing before Fang Yuan, he was a living target, just a livestock. Stripped of all his defenses, he was fragile as a baby. He could not even use a single metal path Gu worm, he could not even self-detonate. He worked hard all his life, accumulating this set of Gu worms, and now it all went to Fang Yuan. After Fang Yuan killed Tai Mu Bai, he kept all the Gu worms inside his aperture. The spring-autumn cicada's aura could only suppress rank 4 Gu worms. These 3 rank 5 Gu could not be controlled by Fang Yuan, but because of the location, these Gu worms were restricted by the heavenly power, unable to move at all. As Fang Yuan's primeval essence refined them, they gave up and changed owners. Good, you obtained a rank 5 peak stage aperture, this way, the second aperture Gu's aptitude has risen to 40%. But you must take note, to transport you earlier, and support your attack, we expended quite a bit of immortal essence. Land Spirit's voice came, warning Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan stopped laughing, his expression calming down, I have already considered that. He sneered, his eyes glowing with brilliance, as his tone was extremely confident and in control of the situation. He continued, Ba Gui, you have slept for too long, the blessed land was remodeled by the Three Kings, you lost too much control of it. Even as the spirit of the blessed land, although you can overwrite these changes, that would use up too much immortal essence. There is little immortal essence left inside the cauldron. If we split these essence into 16 portions, then the amount we used earlier would be half a portion. Ba Gui was stunned, praising, "You are absolutely correct. You actually managed to calculate the expenditure of the immortal essence so accurately. Your performance has truly amazed me." Fang Yuan was a Gu immortal in his past life. He was extremely familiar with the use of immortal essence. It was easy to make such accurate calculations. I estimate that among the 16 portions, at least 8 is needed for the refinement of the second aperture Gu. As for the remaining 8, we need 4 to sustain the blessed land, and to kill Gu masters, we need a bit more than 3 portions. The final bit would be kept to deal with emergencies. But Ba Gui said, "Young man, you are wrong this time. To refine the immortal Gu, we need 10 portions, and to maintain the 3 kings' inheritance, we only need 2. After you kill enough people, I will close the blessed land." "No, I am not wrong." Fang Yuan shook his head. "To refine the second aperture Gu, although we need to expend immortal essence, the expenditure of some steps can be replaced with primeval stones. That way, we can save 2 portions of immortal essence. Furthermore, you cannot close the inheritance, you have to keep the entrance open the entire time." "Why?" Land Spirit asked. Fang Yuan replied, "Because once you close the inheritance, the matter of me killing rank 5 Gu masters would be exposed. By then, such a situation would attract even stronger foes. Even if you close the blessed land, you cannot chase away the Gu masters who remain in the inheritance. That is because the 3 kings modified the blessed land. You will need to waste a lot of immortal essence to expel them. Immortal essence is already running low, even portion is important, it is needed for refinement. Towards the later stage of the refinement, immortal essence will run low, and the blessed land will be on the brink of collapsing, and have lots of loopholes, connecting to the outside world. It is no use closing the blessed land. When your strength falls drastically, this hall would be discovered. By then, we would be attacked by the Gu masters, and the refinement would be likely to fail." After a while of silence, the land spirit said, "You are right, but your method has a fatal flaw. If we use primeval stones to replace the immortal essence, you need at least 30 million primeval stones. Do you have so many?" Fang Yuan laughed loudly. "I only have 1,000,000 primeval stones on me, it is obviously not enough. But it is not a problem, there are other Gu masters, especially these rank 4 and 5 Gu masters, they are definitely rich. After we kill them, do we have to worry about primeval stones?" Ba Gui considered it for a bit. "You are right, the help I can give you will shrink. Towards the end of the refinement, that is the most important step, we will act according to your suggestion." Chapter 380, Slaughtering Rank 5. A battle between dogs ended. Steel Armor Dog Group's defense is so strong. The rank 5 demonic Gu master Ku Mo had several hundred steel armor dogs around him, feeling extremely pleased. The steel armor dogs had thick leather armor, black and heavy, like steel. In the King Quan inheritance, it had the greatest defense among dogs for the first 50 rounds. Just earlier, Ku Mo controlled the dog groups, and had a victorious battle. His battle result was outstanding, using the dog enslavement Gu to recruit a Jade-Eye Dog King. This Jade-Eye Dog King was not only a 100-beast king, it also had a wild Gu worm that was effective against the Yin dogs. Last time, I failed because of the Yin dogs. Ordinary dogs cannot hit these formless bodies, with the Jade-Eye Dog King, I have no fear now. This was only the 18th round of the King Quan inheritance, and Ku Mo already had a Dog King, and a large number of steel armor dogs. He was after all a rank 5 Gu master, he had amazing methods. At the same time, his luck this time was great. King Quan inheritance was like this, it was the one which required luck the most among the 3 inheritances. If you start out well, your advantages will snowball and make it easier to pass the middle and later stages. Last time, I only got to the 68th round, I am too embarrassed to speak of such a result. This time, I got lucky and had such a great start. But I cannot be complacent. Tai Mu Bai chose King Xian inheritance this time. I heard that previously, he got to over 80 rounds. Thinking of Tai Mu Bai, Kumo's heart became heavy. He knew that if he fought alone, he was not Tai Mu Bai's match. Thus, when he chose the inheritance, he purposely avoided Tai Mu Bai, and chose the King Quan inheritance. The truth is, among the 3 inheritances, King Xian inheritance was the easiest to get through for the first few rounds. The Gu master can disrupt the hairy men with words, and win without a fight. This shortcut method was obviously spread out by Fang Yuan. Ku Mo thought about it for a while, before collecting his thoughts and decided to use his time to continue advancing through the rounds. Just at this moment, before him, space tore open and an unfamiliar young man appeared. Eh? Who is it? Ku Mo was shocked. He had tried the 3 kings' inheritance many times. He had a clear understanding of it, but this scene had happened before him, causing him to be stunned in disbelief. The person was naturally Fang Yuan. He heard Ku Mo's shouting and laughed. Who is it? The person who wants your life. Saying so, he activated Golden Dragon Gu. The Golden Dragon appeared, roaring. Its dragon whiskers swayed with the wind, as its dragon eyes stared fiercely, brandishing its 4 fearsome claws. Ku Mo saw this and almost peed his pants. He screamed in disbelief, how can this be? How can you use any Gu? How is this possible? Moments before death, he shuddered and activated his Gu worms hurriedly. But he got no response. Roar! Golden Dragon came attacking, scratching and almost smashing his entire upper body. The great Ku Mo, an expert of a generation, an old demonic powerhouse, died just like this. When he died, he did not even manage to use his token. Of course, with the land spirit's manipulation, even if he used the token, there would be no effect. Golden Dragon Gu attacks really fiercely, but the handling is so rough, I cannot control it meticulously. Fang Yuan recalled the attack. He had wanted to just smash Ku Mo's skull, but he ended up destroying his entire upper body, slightly shocking him. Thankfully, the aperture was near the stomach, and did not get destroyed. Fang Yuan walked forward, his mind entering the aperture, and started to loot it. Ku Mo had 8 Gu worms, but only one rank 5 Gu, called Soft Bones Gu. It was very despicable. This Gu could turn the bones of any lifeform soft within a radius of 25 kilometers. Even if Fang Yuan turned his bones into essence iron bones, he would still be affected and his bones would turn soft eventually. By then, Fang Yuan would have no way to fight back. Without his skeleton to support him, he would be like a paralyzed man, lying on the ground, his intestines would squeeze together and his blood vessels and muscles would clog one another. Even without any external attacks, before long, he would die from this. As for his other 7 Gu, they were all rank 4. These Gu all had to do with the bone path, and were not particularly good ones. It's a pity, I do not know much about the bone path, the most I can do is scratch the surface of it. If I inherit this set of Gu worms, the battle strength I can display would not be half of Ku Mo. I should keep it for now. Fang Yuan assessed in his mind. At Ku Mo's level, the Gu set he created was completely customized for himself, using his battle style, his understanding of the bone path, and his understanding towards battles and Gu masters. Fang Yuan was most skilled in the blood path. In his previous life, he benefited from the blood sea inheritance, and used the blood path to start his conquest. He had a deep understanding of the blood path. If Ku Mo was a blood path Gu master, the situation would be different. After taking Ku Mo's Gu worms, Fang Yuan used the beast strength placenta Gu and devoured his aperture. After receiving nutrients, beast strength placenta Gu grew a little again. Its concrete surface had a thin layer of luster, and the surface was smoother, like poorly made porcelain. It was a pity for Ku Mo, a great expert born as a lone cultivator, slogging it out alone his whole life. He had many encounters and opportunities in his life, and together with his hard work, after experiencing great hardships, he reached this level. Eventually, he died, and all his hard work and fruits of his labor became Fang Yuan's loot. A great rank 5 Gu master fell from the apex, becoming Fang Yuan's stepping stone. Too bad the dog enslavement Gu can't be taken back, if not these dogs would be mine to manipulate too. Fang Yuan looked at the dogs as he sighed, vanishing on the spot. A battle was ongoing intensely. Wu Gui manipulated the chrysanthemum Akita dogs, fighting and entangling with a large pack of lightning symbol dogs. Chrysanthemum Akita dogs were a type of dog with great unity. The greater their numbers, the greater their strength. But Wu Gui was unlucky, he had only 40 or so chrysanthemum Akita dogs. He placed these dogs at the front line, as he concentrated in controlling them. The chrysanthemum Akita dogs were fighting a lightning symbol dog pack 5 times their sizes. They were all injured but not dead. The exquisite combination and cooperation showed Wu Gui's exemplary talent in enslaving beasts. Wu Gui had become an enslavement path Gu master many years ago, but eventually because of a lack of resources, he had to change paths. Swoosh! Fang Yuan suddenly appeared behind Wu Gui. Wu Gui was spending all his effort controlling the chrysanthemum Akita dogs. He did not sense Fang Yuan's arrival. If it was during normal times, he would use an investigative Gu, and once Fang Yuan appeared, he would get attacked immediately. But in this Gu immortal blessed land, he was just an ordinary person only able to control dog enslavement Gu and some others. All the body modifications on him were also completely restricted. Of course, it was also due to Wu Gui concentrating deeply on the dog battle. Fang Yuan did not trash talk, he waved his hand and a bone spike flew out. Poochie! A crisp sound, and a long spear-like bone spike pierced Wu Gui's heart, as the sharp pointy tip stabbed into the ground. Wu Gui's pupils shrunk to pin size as he was completely stunned and confused at this fatal attack. Who tried to kill me? He opened his mouth and fresh blood oozed out like a river. He slowly turned around, trying desperately to see the culprit's face. But unfortunately, he lost all signs of life when he turned halfway. Wu Gui's body collapsed like a pile of mud, hanging on the bone spike. This demonic expert who was even more senior than Tai Mu Bai, famous 200 years ago, had died as well. When he died, his eyes were staring wide, trying to see who was his murderer. But this simple wish was not granted. The great Wu Gui died with a grievance. After he died, the chrysanthemum Akita dogs who lost their master's manipulation immediately got engulfed by the lightning symbol dogs. These lightning symbol dogs howled as they pounced on Fang Yuan. Roar! Fang Yuan waved his hand, as the golden dragon appeared again, slaughtering all these lightning symbol dogs who did not know better. Fang Yuan quickly came to Wu Gui's corpse, doing the same thing again. Keeping his Gu worms then feeding his aperture to the beast strength placenta Gu. Wu Gui had one rank 5 Gu. It was oval and black like a Yuhua stone one. But the surface had 7 white markings, and it looked extremely peculiar and dark. It was the pitch black Gu. Once the Gu is activated, it would ooze out black smoke. Any Gu worms below rank 6 would get contaminated by the black smoke and receive various degrees of sealing, losing their abilities. As for his other Gu worms, there were 8 to 9, all rank 4. But they were mixed among different paths, and were a mess, unlike Ku Mo and Tai Mu Bai's complete Gu set. These are Wu Gui's Gu worms, although they can form into a set, they are not a complete set. The reason why he can roam the southern border is mostly due to the pitch black Gu. Undeniably, pitch black Gu is an extremely useful rank 5 Gu. Fang Yuan was extremely happy to have obtained it. He kept the pitch black Gu into his aperture, but placed the rest of the rank 4 Gu into his pocket. His aperture already had many Gu worms, among them, he had 5 rank 5 Gu worms, and many rank 4 Gu. This was placing a lot of pressure on his aperture. Mostly importantly, it was due to the spring-autumn cicada, this rank 6 Gu was recovering, and it was emitting great pressure on Fang Yuan's aperture. The flow of time in the blessed land is 3 times out the outside world, accelerating spring-autumn cicada's recovery. I have to race against time, quickly refining the second aperture Gu. With the second aperture, I would be able to relieve the pressure spring-autumn cicada is giving me. To Fang Yuan, the situation was extremely rushed. He did not only want to refine the second aperture Gu, he also wanted to guard against this major threat, the spring-autumn cicada. Towards the end of the refinement, the blessed land would be full of flaws, and after connecting to the outside world, he might receive the group attack of many Gu masters. By then, the land spirit would be weak and powerless, it would be useless, and Fang Yuan would be in the most danger during that period. Refining the second aperture Gu, the closer we get to the end, the tougher it gets. Especially that final step, I need to use the divine travel Gu, I will need to focus and concentrate, my body would be in huge danger. Wu Gui's demise was the best lesson to Fang Yuan, he had to guard against such situations. But his situation was slightly different. I have another chess piece, that is by Ning Bing. She used the poison Vao Gu before, she can be trusted. It seems that towards the end, I will need her to protect me. Thinking so, Fang Yuan vanished, and appeared before Bai Ning Bing. Fang Yuan, how did you get here so suddenly? Bai Ning Bing looked at Fang Yuan, shocked and suspicious.